tell. It's gonna be a great Noel. It's the Advent Calendar House. Muppets, Batman, Smurfs, and even Garfield's Halloween. We're gonna take a trip down memory lane. Frosty, Rudolph, and a bunch you've probably never seen. It's Mike and pals that come to entertain. Turn the knob and lift the latch for fun and laughs that can't be matched. But just beware the icy patch. It's the Advent Calendar House.
Welcome to the Advent Calendar House, a podcast you've only just started listening to, and yet you've somehow known your entire life. It is Scrooge Sunday, and I am thrilled to finally catch up with the timeline of folks who've been waiting for me to watch this. It is finally time to take a ride in the TARDIS back to 2010 for Doctor Who's wibbly-wobbly take on A Christmas Carol. I am Weather Slumlord who just wanted to see some fish when I was a child, so now your entire cruise ship has to suffer. Mike Westfall.
Excuse me. I have to say, Mike, before you said wibbly wobbly, but you can't start that without saying timey wimey.
Oh, excuse me.
Come on.
Well,
you blew it, Mike.
Joining me is a 2,000-year-old robot centurion who broke out his old work uniform for his honeymoon. It's Andre Bennett. Hey, Andre.
It's funny because I actually am a newlywed. Hey, Mike.
I did that on purpose.
Yes, I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also here with his angelic voice that can sue the flying shark, it's Jack from the Total Christmas Podcast. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Michael. That's it. I've got nothing better. That's all you're getting.
That's fine. Happy you're here. And because I signaled him to be here using half of a sonic screwdriver that he swallowed and is now stuck in his digestive system for the rest of his life, I guess, it's Anthony Strand. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, Mike. So I got to be pedantic. It's not Scrooge Sunday. It's Kazran Sardik Sunday. Come on.
Oh, you got me. It can be both.
Oh, he's done you, Mike. He's done you.
They're overlapping. Thank you all for being here. Andre, this is one you requested way back when I started getting the idea for this podcast. And at that point, I hadn't even watched a single episode of Doctor Who, but I have finally caught up, and I have got to say thank you.
Well, I'm glad to put you onto it. It's a show that has meant a lot to me for a long, long time. I was telling our old boss the other day, actually, I ran into him.
Hey.
That I got into it in middle school. So I'm one of those dorks.
Okay.
And I only look young.
That's right. Jack, do you have a history of watching this special?
This special? Yeah, I got a history. I first time I watched this special was like when you told me you wanted me to be on the show. And then the second time I watched it was yesterday. And then I watched it again today. So that's quite a history, I like to think.
Quite a history. Anthony, what about you?
Yeah, so I discovered Doctor Who with the new series. We call it the new series, but it was 20 years ago now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Coming up this spring, it'll be 20. And so I first saw this when it aired in 2010, Christmas 2010. And I have watched it every single Christmas since, at least once. Like I have never skipped a year with this one because I will get into it, but this is my favorite Doctor Who Christmas special. It's my favorite episode of Doctor Who that Stephen Moffat ever wrote, and he's written a lot of them. So I'm very excited to be here and talk about it because I spend a lot of time thinking about this one.
Anthony, I got to agree with you. I don't think they've ever topped this Christmas special. And as far as Moffat episodes, it's I would probably, if not top three, I would definitely say number one.
Wow.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, whatever. It's one of those things where if you're watching this or you're watching Heaven Sent, like you're gonna win either way. You know, like there's or whatever.
Funny story is that this was nominated for a Hugo Award, and it lost to The Big Bang and Pandora Opens.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Which was just before
episodes.
this. Yeah.
The season finale. Yeah, before it.
Awesome.
I was actually reviewing the show during this time for a website called Forces of Geek, and so I basically am way familiar. I mean, I'm way familiar with a lot of this stuff, even though I kind of dropped off during the Capaldi era. But the early Moffat period, I really enjoyed largely just because Matt Smith is just such an amazing doctor. But also, I think it might have been the peak as far as Moffat's writing on the show.
Season 5, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would tell you not to sleep on season 9. Give that another shot.
Okay.
I'll get there.
I got to stand up for Capaldi because that's my favorite era. But
I'll get there. I watched his first season in full.
Sure.
And then I kind of dropped out halfway through the premiere of his second season.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently started picking it up. I did actually watch the anniversary specials last year because, Russell T Davies coming back and David Tennant coming back. I was like, all right, I'll hop back on. And I've been watching the new stuff ever since it was on Disney Plus. But
sure,
there's a whole big gap that
in between,
need to close.
And it's very Doctor Who to go back and watch it out of order. So,
It is true.
Okay.
Do it. Yeah.
True. Very timey-wimey.
Can I make an interesting point here? So yesterday was the 61st anniversary of the first ever episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, actually did a thing so I work at a radio. Mike and I used to work together at a news radio station. I'm still there. We do a This Day in Entertainment History feature called Rewind. And yesterday for Rewind, I did. Oh yeah, I took over Rewind. I don't know if you know.
You took over Rewind.
I took over Rewind.
Wow.
So yesterday I did Doctor Who because obviously.
Yeah.
That's actually the reason I was talking to our old boss about it because Rewind came up. Yeah, it's crazy to think that we're talking about this now. As we're recording this, it is actually the day after the anniversary of Doctor Who.
Correct.
So, a belated happy Doctor Who day to all of you.
Yeah, 61 glorious years.
Exactly.
Can I just ask out of interest then? So, when you first got into it, who was your first doctors then?
Me? I got into it during that weird wilderness period when the show was not on the air anywhere.
Oh, you're not that young. Oh, then
I got into it. I want to say 1993. It had been canceled or on hiatus for 4 years. So the most recent Doctor, I guess, had been McCoy. I got into it because the Sci-Fi Channel had been showing the episodes, and they did like a 30th anniversary marathon. They showed the 5 Doctors, the making of Silver Nemesis, K9 and Company, and I'd also just been watching as much as I could on PBS. So I was just sort of immersing myself in all of it. I'd seen Tom Baker episodes before, when I was smaller. My mom actually used to watch the show when she was a kid.
Okay.
But I really kind of dove into it around that time. And then you had the TV movie in 95, I want to say. 95?
96.
96. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one that had the misfortune of running opposite the Roseanne episode where Dan had a heart attack.
Right.
But by that point, I was basically just a diehard. It didn't take very long. So yeah, I would say my Doctor was the first 7, but more specifically, I guess I'd say McCoy because I really kind of gravitated to him at the time.
Awesome, love that. I didn't start watching it until Sci-Fi Channel again ran the first season, the Christopher Eccleston season, after Battlestar Galactica. I remember it was right after Battlestar Galactica on Sci-Fi Channel that year, probably spring 2006. I think it was a little delayed. And I was in college, and I knew kind of what Doctor Who was, but I'd never seen it. I watched that first season, and I became obsessed. I started getting the tapes of old stories out of the library between seasons 1 and 2, because I was just there are 8 more of these guys before this. I can't let that just sit there. I gotta meet them all.
Yeah, that's another thing I did too, because I also went back during that. When I was, young, a teenager, I would go to the library and I took out all the old, as many old episodes as I could find, all the John Pertwee stuff they had. I watched Inferno, Curse of Peladon.
Sure. Yeah, I remember my first 3. I got 3 tapes out of the library the first time, and it was Seeds of Death, Planet of the Daleks, and Pyramids of Mars.
Nice.
And it was I was just and Planet of the Daleks is not even, that's a Pertwee, it's not that great. But still, I was just fun to see what the Daleks were in 1973. Yeah.
It's also, it starts off a cliffhanger because it comes right after that last Master episode.
Right, Frontier in Space.
Yes. because I watched that recently on Pluto TV, and it just stopped, and I'm like, wait a second, and then Planet of the Daleks comes on, and I'd already seen the first couple of parts of that before. I'm like, oh, I get it. That's why it felt like it started in media res.
Yeah, it's basically a 12-parter, but the VHS releases were separate, so I didn't know that when I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, Mike, I hope some of your listeners have got a clue what they're talking about, because I haven't.
I'm lost too, so sorry.
You can probably cut all this out. Yeah,
I'm fine. It's fine.
Who was your doctor, Mike? Who was your doctor? You're younger than me, aren't you?
I started like in 2020, but I started at the beginning of this newer run. Yeah, no, I am new to most of this. So Doctor Who was always a show I was very vaguely aware of. I remember seeing promos of it back in the 80s for the local PBS station. But when I was a kid, I assumed it was a grown-up show. This doesn't have cartoons or puppets. What is this? Turns out I was wrong.
Turns out it does have puppets.
Yes. It's a kid show with a lot of overqualified actors.
Yeah.
I tell you what, because being British, it was massive when I was a kid. I'm probably older than most of you guys. I might be the oldest one here.
I think you're the oldest one of us.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that.
You're welcome. I'm second. So
So I remember when Tom Baker was the Doctor, but not well. But I do remember when Peter Davison took over. I remember that series. I remember watching it. That was quite. I'd say Peter Davison was sort of my main. Maybe him and Tom Baker. That was. Well, and I watched it with a bit of Colin Baker. Then I got a bit bored because he wasn't cool, and then I didn't really care much for Sylvester McCoy either. But it was massive. It always was massive, and I had a lot of friends that were big on it. Like it was a geek thing back then, Yeah.
Funny story. My mom went to England in '94, and it was like a business thing. And I asked her if she could just grab me any Doctor Who memorabilia she could find. And when she came back, she told me that she couldn't really find anything at that point because it was just sort of out of vogue. And I'm like, well, that sucks.
It was though for a long time. The thing is, I remember a lot of talk between the because you had two periods, didn't you, of the wilderness. You had Sylvester McCoy, and there's a big gap, and then it was the Paul McGann movie, another big gap, and then Christopher Eccleston. And I remember a mate at school that was a big fan, and he had the big long scarf he used to wear all the time, like Tom Baker. And I used to talk to him about it, and I remember there was talk that Rutger Hauer was going to be the new Doctor Who, or they were going to make a film of Doctor Who. Yeah, it never happened, but the talk there.
That would have been wild.
Oh God, a Rutger Doctor Who?
Well, we're talking
that would have been amazing.
Very early 90s that would have been, but it never happened. And then the Paul McGann movie came, and nothing really came of that, did it? So that was
then they did the Richard E. Grant animated Doctor.
Yeah, Scream of the Shaka.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be they said no, he's the canon Ninth Doctor, and then they announced this new show, and they're like, never mind. This new guy is going to be canon Ninth Doctor.
And it was immediately after. It was the animated special was for the 40th anniversary. And then on the 40th anniversary in 2003, they announced that Russell T Davies was doing a new series.
He's doing this.
Yeah.
It was truly Doctor Who's back, nerds animated. And then it was never mind. We're making a new show.
I got to tell you though, when the reboot or the relaunch, I should say, because it wasn't really a reboot, so it was more of a revival. Yeah. When that first started, my supervisor at my old job had burned me a copy, and I'm hoping the statute of limitations is passed on this, but he burned me a copy because it was only running on BBC One then because they hadn't gotten an American deal for it. So he right at the day after it aired, because I was still working there at the time because it was this period where I was working there and at the radio station.
Hey, adults, remember burning?
Briefly, yeah. So he gave, because we were both fans, and he gave me a copy, and I called my mom. Actually, no, I was still living at home at the time. So my mom and I watched it together. I'm like, hey, you want to watch the brand new Doctor Who? She's like, oh yeah. And I was so excited, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like, yeah, we're back. This is amazing.
Nice.
I felt I was so pumped because, having heard all this news, and when they announced Christopher Eccleston, I'm like, oh, this is interesting because I had seen him in 28 Days Later.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in that.
Yeah.
And watching the episode, I was just like, this is amazing. I can't believe that that they pulled this off. And we're getting a little emotional here.
Oh,
But memories with my mom are by default I get emotional because of that, but also just because it was like almost felt like a validation of all the years of fandom, and it's like no one really understood except for like a scant few people how much I loved this show and what the show was about, and it's like now it's back and everyone's like, okay, I see what this is about.
That's where I was. Yeah. So I started watching this maybe 4 years ago, and I started right at that Christopher Eccleston season. Perhaps I'll go back and watch from the beginning someday, but I love it so far. I'm hooked. This Christmas Carol special is the most recent episode I've watched. My kids were interested for a while. We were all watching it together, but then my younger daughter got as far as the episode, The Time of the Angels, I think it's called, and she decided, nope, done. I am done.
Sure.
So the rest has been slow going.
All the Weeping Angel stuff, I will say, is scary. Has she seen Blink yet?
Yeah, we did Blink, and she was just like, she was on the fence after that.
I think Blink is the scariest Angels one.
Well, we got The Time of the Angels, and I think she's like, oh, these guys? No, I'm done. So it's been slow going since then.
Yeah, no, that two-parter, especially the bit where you actually see the angel move.
Yeah.
That is creepy.
I love it, but...
Yeah. Oh, then don't show her Angels Take Manhattan if you ever intend on taking her to New York City.
She's already been, but okay.
Because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a big reveal, and I think you probably know what I'm getting at.
I think I know.
Yes,
sure is.
All right. So, I've taken note that there's been a Doctor Who Christmas special almost every year since 2005, but this was the one people have told me I have to see, and now that I've finally caught up, I understand. Out of the 6 I've seen so far, this is the most Christmassy. It's a Christmas Carol. How can it be?
It's interesting because being a Brit, they stopped showing them on Christmas Day. Actually, it was they started moving them to to New Year's Eve,
yeah.
New Year's Day. Yeah,
but now they're back. Last year it was
that's
Church
right.
on Ruby Road was the first.
Yeah, there was a big gap, and now it's back for Christmas. Yeah.
During the whole Chris Chibnall era, the Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. All of those are New Year's specials instead.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not some of the Peter Capaldi ones as well.
Nope, Capaldi are all Christmas. It's last Christmas. Like, mild spoiler, Nick Frost plays Santa Claus in one of them. Ooh. One of the Capaldis.
You're right, he does. Yeah, I'll take it back. Yeah. Right, Mike, at this point, can I have a go at Anthony for his podcast? Or
go for it.
Wait till the end. Doing that. But Anthony, boys and girls, those of you at home might not be familiar that Anthony Strand presents a podcast called Moving Right Along, and it's a minute by minute of the Muppet movies, and it's a fantastic podcast. But for some reason, hold on, Anthony. But for some reason, this is not a laughing matter. For some reason, the latest series, you've decided not to number the episodes. So if I try to download them all and binge listen to them, Anthony, how on earth am I going to do it alphabetically? You've made a fool of yourself, Anthony. Of all podcasts you could go on, you come on here on Mike Westfall's glorious Advent Calendar House with your alphabetically arranged minute by minute. Who do you think you are, Anthony?
So I'm going to tell you something true that sounds like I'm just avoiding discussing it, but my co-host Ryan is our editor, so that's really a question.
Ryan's the good guy, Anthony. Ryan's the good guy in this situation.
He actually is the one who uploads the episodes and everything. So, like, I truly have nothing to do with it.
Oh, so you're passing the buck. It's like, the buck doesn't stop with me, the guy who runs the podcast. The buck is stopping here with my editor. Oh, okay.
Yes, the buck stops with my co-host who runs the podcast. Yes.
Okay. All right.
No, not having it. Not having it.
I don't have that fortune. Everything you're hearing now is my fault. So
no, yours is great, Mike. Yours is great, but Anthony's has just gone to pieces.
I will.
don't know how to number a podcast. It's easy. Let me. It starts like this. You start with 1, and then the next one's number 2. You see?
Yep.
Do you see where we're going?
I do.
Then what's wrong with you, Anthony?
I will tell the person.
Michael, can we get on with
episodes.
this Doctor Who episode? Because to be honest, I'm sick of Anthony.
Yeah.
He's let me down.
For everybody who's super lost, well, you should go watch Doctor Who. I really don't want to spend a lot of time having to explain what Doctor Who is, so here's the extremely short version. The Doctor Who, exactly, is a 900-something-year-old alien Time Lord who travels through time and space largely for funsies, and usually with a companion or two, along the way helping and or saving those in need of it. Also, when Time Lords are fatally injured, they regenerate into a whole new person, and that's how they explain that this episode stars the 11th incarnation of the Doctor out of, what are we up to now, 15?
15.
Technically, at the he's the 12th.
Okay, yeah.
He's the 12th because there's a non-numbered version that they introduced, the War Doctor, that's in between 8 and 9.
Is that John Hurt?
John Hurt.
Andre, as long as we're talking about this, we should probably count Joe Martin too.
No, Anthony, you can stay out of this. Anthony.
Okay, like again, I dropped off before the Chibnall era, so I don't know so much about the Fugitive Doctor, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean, you opened this can of worms, my friend.
I did.
I was just gonna let 11 slide.
We're going with 11. That's what everybody calls him. He's the 11th Doctor.
Gig fight. Everyone stand back.
So going into this episode real quick, putting on my my recapper hat because I was doing this at the time.
Well, I'm going to bed. Wake me up when this is over, Mike.
No, basically, this comes after the very first Matt Smith season, and it ends with him saving the universe and his companion Amy Pond and her boyfriend Rory getting married. So we're actually literally starting this during their honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the first full Christmas special starring the 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith. Does anyone know, was Matt Smith a decently known actor before he became the Doctor?
He was not.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Right, being a Brit, I'd never heard of him at all when he came out. It was, but I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Sherlock thing. Are you?
A little bit.
I am. Yeah.
One of you can talk about it. Then I can't be bothered.
I wasn't on Sherlock though.
But have I got to do it? Someone else do it. Anthony, you do it. You know the number of podcasts.
What are we saying about Sherlock? A show that Matt Smith wasn't on? Just that it exists. Stephen Moffat ran it at the same time?
That was out of the two of them, wasn't it?
No, that was Benedict Cumberbatch. He wasn't.
But
And Martin
Anthony,
Freeman.
go out of your element, Anthony. I'm sick of this.
Are we...
A few moments later.
Right, okay. When Matt Smith was given the job of Doctor Who, he was in the running with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the job that Benedict Cumberbatch got of Sherlock in the TV show Sherlock, he was in the running with Matt Smith. And it was like either one was going to get it. And whichever they didn't get, and that's how it worked out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I believe he was also in the running with an actor named Patterson Joseph, who fans might remember him from the Eccleston season finale. He would have been the first Black Doctor. He was also on the. I don't know if anyone saw the adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. He's in that. He's one of the leads in that. Vegas odds makers, like literally, because they're all degenerate gamblers who like bet on anything, literally had him as the front runner to be the next Doctor. And when Matt Smith came along, it's like, who the is this guy? And why isn't Patterson Joseph the new Doctor?
Yeah. Well, and Matt Smith was, I want to say 26 when the announcement was made.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
He was the youngest, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's more like 29, I think, by the time it actually aired. But the announcement was like before Tennant's specials. I mean, it was like 2 years before Tennant's last episode aired or something,
Oh,
Is that right? I didn't know
wow.
that.
Yeah, because they didn't make a new season in 2009.
Right.
So there's just those 5 specials. So like that, because I know that when the River Song first showed up in The Silence in the Library, like we already knew Moffat was taking over, and that's like spring 2008. And this is spring 2010 when his season finally aired,
Yeah.
Wow.
It took me, I'm watching the show, the first episode, the 11th hour, and it took me about 5 minutes for me to be like, okay, yeah, this is the guy. I mean, granted, with David Tennant, like, I was sold on him from like the end of the Eccleston season. As soon as he says Barcelona, I was like, I'm sold on this guy. This is the guy. Didn't even know that he and I shared a birthday at the time. Found that out later. I'm like, this is the guy. This is the Doctor. And then with Matt Smith, it only took, I want to say, a few minutes. Yeah, I'm watching this episode like him interacting with like young Amelia Pond, and I'm like the fish fingers and custard bit. I'm like, this is the guy. This is the Doctor, and it's like if you've never seen the 11th Hour, it is, in my opinion, the best first Doctor, like the best debut Doctor episode, the best first full Doctor episode. Because also up until that point, all the ones I'd seen were rubbish. But except for Rose, I loved Rose.
Rose is good.
You got to check out Spearhead from Space. We're doing this too much. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right,
sorry.
it's okay.
But yeah, and Matt Smith at that point had like just proven himself to be like the guy. And this was also around this time BBC America started running the show, and it became more widespread than ever. So in America, so I would say Matt Smith was the Doctor as it became the most popular it had been up to that point over here.
For sure.
Okay. So A Christmas Carol premiered on Christmas Day in 2010 on BBC One and BBC America. If you want to watch this, I found it streaming for free on Australia's ABC iView. They make you sign up to watch it, but whatever. I watched this on Prime Video.
It's also on Max.
Oh, is it on Max?
In the
Okay.
US,
Everything up until basically the Eccleston stuff up through Jodie Whittaker is on Max. And then everything after Jodie Whittaker is now on Disney Plus.
Right. But let's begin. We open in space. I saw the Horsehead Nebula in the opening shot, which means this is located somewhere near Orion's belt. Fun fact, that means nothing. So we find ourselves on a spaceship that's run into some major turbulence flying over some planet with extremely thick storm clouds. Sparks are flying from the ship's control bridge, and the captain declares,
The ship is going down. Christmas is cancelled.
this captain is played by Pookie Quesnel, and I have a new favorite name. IMDb says she's best known from Pride and Prejudice and Zombies as Mrs. Phillips.
A movie that Matt Smith is also in. He plays
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Oh, well
I haven't
done.
seen it. And she was also in 6 episodes of Doctors as 4 different characters.
Nice.
Doctors is like it's a daytime soap opera in the UK. It's been going decades.
Okay. Well, that
Yeah.
explains the 4 different characters then.
Yeah.
We also meet a pilot and a co-pilot.
Entering atmosphere now. Level, keep a level. With what? I can't see.
The pilot is played by Leo Bill. Wikipedia tells me he's best known as the lead in a 2006 film called The Living and the Dead. He was also in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland movies as the stuffy jerk who proposes to Alice.
Yeah, Hamish. Do you know what? I saw when I saw him first. I was like, I know that guy. And on IMDb, that was where I knew him from. And it's funny because my daughters were watching that this afternoon. They were watching that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we love
Yeah,
we
with
love that
Hamish in it, and yeah, he's playing pretty much the same character. The faces he's pulling.
Yeah.
Huh.
The co-pilot is Micah Balfour. It says he's known from a police drama series called The Bill.
Which was also on forever, right?
The bill went on. It ran for like the early 80s all the way to
wow.
I think early
Okay.
2000s. It was
Okay.
a really popular. It wasn't quite. It was almost a soap, but it ran once a week, I think.
Okay.
Kind of like your Law and Order, right? Almost.
Well, not quite as good as that, you know. it did run for like decades and decades, so it's almost a soap. Sun Hill Police Station,
Okay.
and then it just ended, and it was a real shame that it ended because it was really popular. I never really got into it because it wasn't. It was on ITV, and I used to watch BBC more than ITV. But
Okay.
this is going back a long time, but
All
a
right.
very very popular show, yeah.
Well, he's currently on EastEnders.
Which is probably our number one soap opera now. Have you
Okay.
guys heard of that at all?
I've heard of it.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
heard of EastEnders.
Yeah, there you go.
Fun fact: there is a Doctor Who EastEnders crossover with
There
Tom
is.
Baker.
Yes, you're
Oh.
right. Yeah.
Well, with everybody, it's the Pertwee, Colin Baker, Peter Davison, Sylvester McCoy.
Oh no,
a
not.
bunch of-
I don't mean Dimensions in Time.
Don't
I think
mean
there.
Dimensions in Time. Oh.
I think there is an earlier one, an earlier crossover that is just with Tom Baker.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know that.
I think it might be a later one actually. They did because quite often on Comic Relief we've got 2 big telethons in the UK. One's Comic Relief and one is
Right.
Children in Need. Comic Relief is every 2 years. Children in Need's every year, and they quite often do like a special episode for those 2 guys. So,
Okay.
yeah, it would have been
For those listening, the UK Comic Relief is what inspired the American version with Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg, and Robin Williams.
Yes.
Oh, well done. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we suddenly hear a distress signal, and the captain asks if the pilot sent it. He says no, and her console shows it was sent from the ship's honeymoon suite. Who could possibly be in the honeymoon suite? Well, one of the occupants walks on board, and it's our good pal, Amy Pond.
I've sent for help. Who the hell are you? Look, there's a friend of mine, okay? And he can help us. He'll come.
And what are you wearing?
That doesn't matter.
Amy is the Doctor's most recent companion, played by Karen Gillan, probably better known on this side of the pond from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Nebula.
Yeah, and those Jumanji movies she was in.
And those Jumanji movies. I haven't seen those new Jumanji movies.
Neither have I.
Oh, well, but I mean, like, the first one especially was a big hit, you know? I mean, I think people would know her from it.
Huh.
She's one of the leads.
No, when I found out this was Nebula, I was like, I know that name. What?
Oh, sure. Whereas my introduction to Nebula was Karen Gillan with a shaved head at Comic-Con. You know, I was already a Doctor Who fan. It was like bald Karen Gillan in this Marvel movie. What?
Okay.
Did she actually shave her head for it then?
She did. I believe for the first one, and then it hasn't for the others, I believe.
Oh, wow. She was recently on a show that I watched a couple of weeks ago called Douglas is Cancelled with
the new Stephen Moffat show.
Is that Stephen Moffat? I didn't know.
Yeah, Stephen Moffat wrote that, yeah.
Huh. It's good. It's the wife and I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and it's decent. I don't know if you'd be able to stream it. I think was it BBC?
Yeah, I think it's airing over here like later in 2025 or something, but it hasn't.
Oh, okay. Yet. It's decent, yeah. I enjoyed it.
So Amy's here, dressed in a police costume with a very short skirt because it's that kind of honeymoon.
Well, also actually because so when they introduced her in the first episode,
yes.
Well, when they introduce adult Amy in the first episode, because the whole thing is that the Doctor crashes into her onto her property when she's a child, and then goes away to the TARDIS, and thinking that he's only going to be back like shortly, he kind of misses her life up until her young adulthood. She is working as a kissogram girl, which I guess over here the closest analog would be a strippogram type deal.
Yeah.
So that's her uniform. It's a callback to the first episode.
And if her outfit wasn't feisty enough, her husband Rory rushes into the cockpit wearing his Roman centurion outfit, which is not a costume. He was an actual Roman centurion.
Yeah. He was briefly wiped from existence and then returned as a Roman centurion.
Yes.
Is that right? Do you know what? So I'm watching it, and have you guys heard of Only Fools and Horses?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, with David Jason. You
told me about it last time you were on.
What? Me?
Yeah, you. We were talking about it during Blackadder.
Oh, were we? There you go.
Yeah.
So that's like our most popular sitcom probably of all time in the UK. And there was an episode on Christmas Day 2001 where two of the characters, they've been married a little while, but they start doing some role play. And in that, his wife is dressed as a policewoman, and Rodney, one of the main characters in it, is dressed as a Roman centurion. He's meant to be dressed as like Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe, sorry. It's Gladiator. And I'm watching this thinking, are they role playing? Is this because of the whole Only Fools and Horses thing?
Probably, now that you say that.
I mean, they are role playing in this instance because they definitely imply that. But
yes. They ask why they're dressed, don't they, that way? Yeah, so I thought, it was only the second time I watched it, I think, hang on, this reminds me of something. I looked it up, and the episode was called If They Could See Us Now, and it was one of the last 3 Christmas specials they did of Only Fools and Horses. So.
When did it run initially?
Oh, it was from like the very early 80s till the early 2000s.
Because the thing with that season, it's just like, it's weird to think that he would write an entire season to lead up to one reference like that, but you never know.
I wouldn't put it past him either.
No, you're right. Yeah,
exactly. It's true.
I didn't have any of the previous references, so that's why I just assumed it was from Only Fools and Horses. But maybe it's not. Maybe it is. I don't know.
But also, Stephen Moffat's a sitcom guy.
That is true.
You know, I mean, he wrote Coupling before Doctor Who and stuff.
Okay.
Oh, did he?
And so, he wrote every episode of Coupling.
Yeah, he created that. He created a show called Joking Apart. He came from sitcoms.
He created Press Gang.
Have you seen Press Gang?
Yeah, I've seen Press Gang.
Goodness me.
Just because I love Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who, you know? So, like, I sought it out when I didn't watch all of them, but, like, I've seen a couple episodes.
Yeah, fair play. Dexter Fletcher was in that.
Yeah, he sure was. But anyways, no, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he is also making that reference in addition to the continuity stuff.
Yeah.
So Rory is played by Arthur Darvill.
The lights stop flashing. Does that mean he's coming?
Honeymoon suite. Oh, the clothes. It is just a bit of fun.
Amy, shut up.
Apparently after this, he was on the show Legends of Tomorrow, which I have not watched.
Oh, man.
He was in the first season, which was terrible.
Okay.
Legends of Tomorrow is a show that starts out as truly unwatchable. Not just like bad, but like the first season is genuinely like astoundingly bad, and then it becomes one of the most fun TV shows I've ever seen.
He basically plays a character who is not unlike the Doctor. He plays Rip Hunter, who is a DC Comics. In DC Comics, Rip Hunter is what we call a time master.
And in this, we would call him incompetent the Doctor.
Yes.
So, but Mike, there's a great holiday episode of that show in season 3.
Well, all right.
So you got to watch it from the start so you can get to that one and cover it. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts out bad, and then I guess I dropped off, but I heard they embraced the silliness of it, and it got funny and actually like legitimately fun.
Oh man,
I got to pick it back up.
Yeah, it rules. It's so fun. Yeah.
Okay. So Rory and Amy are on their honeymoon on this space cruise, which is about to crash, but Amy tells the captain she sent the distress signal because she knows someone who can help. And out the window, we see the TARDIS fly by with the message, "Come along, Pond."
What does that mean? It's Christmas.
Yeah.
Lovely way to start the Christmas special, which then gets a slight more Christmas looking as we see what's below the clouds. And it's this almost whimsical looking kind of steampunk city with one giant building in the center shooting a beam of purple energy into the sky. But everyone on the ground seems to be ignoring that because we're all caught up in a merry little Christmas hustle and bustle.
There's a bit where this guy's buying a Christmas tree, and my wife and I went to New York one Christmas.
Okay.
I don't know, 10 years ago. And the Christmas trees that were for sale there were incredible. They were like perfect cones, completely bushy. And the Christmas tree this guy is buying, I sort of watched it and thought, yeah, that's more of a British Christmas tree. It's pretty tatty. it's almost a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, but full size. Yeah, it was a bit shy. I thought, yeah, that's us. That's the Brits.
Yeah.
You can tell this is a British show.
It has character.
Well, as we open, a familiar voice begins to narrate.
On every world, wherever people are, in the deepest part of the winter, at the exact midpoint, everybody stops and turns and hugs, as if to say, well done. Well done, everyone. We're halfway out of the dark.
Back on Earth, we called it Christmas. And I was too distracted by the fact that, hey, I know that voice to realize, wait a minute, Christmas isn't in winter everywhere on this planet, let alone every other planet.
That's true.
I didn't think of that.
When I heard that, it reminded me of there's a Tori Amos Christmas album called Midwinter Graces, and I thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But now I'm realizing, now that you say that, oh yeah, shoot.
Whatever, this guy doesn't care about the details because he follows that up with,
You know what I call it? I call it expecting something for nothing.
and hey kids, it's Michael Gambon.
Yeah. There he is. He made it.
It's old Dumbledore and he's alive again.
From Toys.
From Toys.
Look, I'm sorry. You have Harry Potter, I have Toys, all right?
I'll take Toys.
Oh man. Are we talking about Michael Gambon's southern accent in Toys?
We are now.
It's amazing.
Oh man.
And the fact that he plays LL Cool J's dad.
Plays LL Cool J's dad. He plays Robin Williams' uncle.
Yes.
Plays Donald O'Connor's nephew or brother. Donald O'Connor's brother.
That movie should be in everyone's Christmas rotation as well because
Toys is a Christmas movie.
It is.
Toys is a Christmas movie.
It is weird.
My wife loves the movie Toys. A movie that, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and say this out loud, has a scene where Jamie Foxx, future Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx, cannot stop watching the security camera feed of Robin Williams and Robin Wright having sex with each other.
Oh, I forgot about that scene.
This is a scene that happens in the movie Toys, ostensibly a movie for children.
Yeah.
So yeah, watch it.
I forgot that scene. Oh,
That's all I remember from the movie Toys.
I also want to say that this, the opening, when they get to the opening title, it reminded me how much I disliked this version of the theme song. With that opening fanfare, I just hated it.
Oh,
Interesting.
I do like the what? Like I only know the 3 Doctors worth, and I do like Tennant's more than this one.
I like that super synthy Sylvester McCoy version. Anyway,
I just prefer the original, the original Delia Derbyshire version, or
Version,
you know,
sure.
all the stuff close to it up until the 80s.
Okay.
I know Michael Gambon pretty much only from being the Ultra Gorgon.
Okay.
Oh, from Monster Maker, Jim Henson's Monster
There
Maker.
we go.
Yeah, I love
Where
it.
were you with that? I thought you'd come in with that one.
Of course. Yeah.
That's from what, the Storyteller?
Almost. It's from Monster Maker, which is an episode of the Jim Henson Hour.
Yeah.
Which the Storyteller was also on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the Storyteller had John Hurt. I was like, what, 9 when that was on?
Yep.
Well, and then Gambon was actually the second Storyteller also.
Yes.
They
He was.
They did the Storyteller
Mhm.
Greek myths for 4 episodes, and he's the Storyteller there.
Yeah.
Their production values are a little lower than the John Hurt.
Because that was was the Greek myths after Jim Henson died?
Yes.
Yeah, like right after. They aired in 1990, so Jim may have been alive when they were shot, but he wasn't as involved either way,
Right.
you know.
But here, Michael Gambon is fresh off filming the last Harry Potter movies. In fact, this aired in between parts 1 and 2 of the Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I never watched the movies.
Okay.
Oh. I think what I like about Michael Gambon's casting here is that he feels like someone who would have played Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that.
But to my knowledge, I don't think he ever has, other than
He would have been perfect as like actual Scrooge. I mean, he's perfect here.
He was in a version from 2001, which is awful. A Christmas Carol. It's called A Christmas Carol the movie.
That's the animated one.
Yeah, it's not good though. It's not good. It's got Kate Winslet does one of the voices, and Nicolas Cage is Jacob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
But Michael Gambon is the ghost. Simon Callow is Ebenezer Scrooge, and Michael Gambon is the Ghost of Christmas Present. And I sort of feel like they could get him, so they got him. But I think he's more suited as Scrooge than he is as the Ghost of Christmas Present, personally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I haven't seen that movie, but I would. Yeah,
I wouldn't go out of your way.
Sure, that's the thing. It looked bad, so I knew.
But it is on YouTube, kids. If you want to check it out, kids, it's on YouTube.
You're going to be visited by 3 ghosts.
We should also note Simon Callow played Charles Dickens on Doctor Who.
In The Unquiet Dead.
So.
That's right.
Yeah. Which I remembered that the whole thing where the entire... We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, Michael Gambon, no big long beard or hair on this character. His name is Kazran Sardik, and he is terrific as this grouchy Scrooge stand-in.
No, I agree. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, he rules.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, he's just such an Ebenezer Scrooge type of actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they knew when they cast him in this that he was going to bring the weight of Dumbledore and of toys.
You know, toys energy.
I ride for toys. I always ride for toys. Of the Ultra Gorgon and so on. And just the power of that voice was going to do so much of the work.
Yeah.
And it does. Man, it does.
Right.
Yeah.
So Kazran's got some poor family pleading with him to, quote, let her out for Christmas. And one of Kazran's servants wheels in this cryogenic chamber. Like, think of the ones from Futurama that Fry falls into, but with a big steel frame and a portal window. And inside, we see a young woman asleep in stasis. We'll talk about who that actress is later. For now, her family just pleads she loves Christmas, and Kazran fakes a kind tone here before he straight up taunts them by tapping on the glass and shouting,
Hello! Wakey, wakey! It's Christmas! You know what? I think she's a bit cool about the whole thing.
She reminded me a lot of Nora Freeze, Mr. Freeze's wife.
Oh, yeah.
She did. Well, and that joke reminded me of Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. So,
Yes.
For sure, yeah, for sure.
he has to tell his servants that was funny to get them to laugh at it. Then he asks one of his workers, how much? And he replies, 4,500 Gideons, which we learn is the amount of a loan this family took years ago, and this young woman volunteered to be frozen as collateral. Well, that's a twist.
Can I just point out, it's 50 years. Couldn't they have paid it off in the 50 years? How long do they think it was going to take them to pay it off?
Interest rates were probably like
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
through the roof.
Out of control.
Killing it, yeah. And in the middle of this negotiation, the president of wherever Kazran lives and tries to call him on a very old-timey looking telephone, saying our spaceship from the opening is trapped in the cloud layer and he has to let it land. And Kazran asked, or they'll crash, of course, and he does not care. I love his cheeky answers to everything here. Well, it's a kind of landing.
I thought that was a bit cold, that. I sort of feel like...
Oh, it's super cold, but I laughed.
It's not a lot of skin off his nose, really, if he just lets him... Go on, just let him through. It's not a big deal, is it?
Right, but I think that's the point, is that this is such a small thing he could do, and he doesn't, because he's such a cold, horrible man. I think that's the whole thing about Ebenezer Scrooge, right? I think the power of this fantasy is that this has to be a horrible old man. It's like, what's great about A Christmas Carol is that we all know who horrible rich men are. We all know that they exist. What if they had a change of heart and became generous?
Right.
Like that's the fantasy.
That is the fantasy.
It's the ultimate fantasy.
And so it's the ultimate fantasy, right? And so for him to have a change of heart and for it to matter, he has to be like so cold that he can't even flip a switch to save 4,000 lives.
Yeah.
It's not worth his time to flip a switch.
No, he even says the line. He says this planet already has a surplus population.
Right, yeah.
Yes, they go back to that line a bunch, actually.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I got a little shook because I had the feeling of deja vu, like this moment has happened. just a little while ago. Sorry.
No, all good. Meanwhile, we hear their familiar sound of the TARDIS materializing, and then this family has 2 kids, and the younger one looks about 10, stares at the source of this strange noise over by the fireplace. And as Kazran hangs up on the president and dismisses the family, down the chimney in a big cloud of fire and dust enters the doctor, with his clothes all tarnished in ashes and soot.
It is such a great entrance for him.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Blimey. Sorry. Christmas Eve on a rooftop. Saw a chimney. My whole brain just went, what the hell?
Spoken like an alien who's never seen Gremlins.
Nice.
He does immediately add, for the sake of the 2 younger kids in the room, don't worry, Fat Fella will be around here later.
Fat fella? Father Christmas. Santa Claus. Or, as I've always known him, Jeff.
Jeff!
Yeah, that's nice. That's good.
Santa's never struck me as a Jeff, but I do know a Jeff who'd make a good Santa.
Couldn't he have gone with Nick, though? Couldn't he?
You'd think. Maybe that's what's funny.
That'd be the
about
obvious
it.
joke.
It's too, yeah, but yeah.
I don't know. Well, the younger of the 2 kids tells the doctor there's no such person as Father Christmas, and the doctor whips out an old black and white photo of himself with the very real Father Christmas at Frank Sinatra's hunting lodge in 1952.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know, the whole celebrity historical thing had gotten to be such a big deal on the new series of Doctor. There wasn't that many of them on the old show,
Okay.
And now in this, it's like every once in a while he's meeting Charles Dickens, he's meeting Shakespeare.
Like every season, they would have like a celebrity historical episode.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Vincent Van Gogh.
Rosa Parks.
Just before this, right? And so that feels like this is just Moffat being cheeky about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many celebrity historicals that you'll never get to see. Here I am with Frank Sinatra and Santa Claus.
Yes.
Right?
Anyway, the doctor, who might be the most ADHD protagonist on television.
Especially Matt Smith, yeah.
At least many incarnations, but especially Matt Smith.
Especially Matt Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Turns his attention briefly to a big flashy lighty thing that looks like a giant church organ, but we learn controls the weather. The thing the space cruiser's trapped in. So Kazran's family tamed the clouds on his entire planet, and now he controls them. But that doesn't stop the Doctor from trying to push a bunch of buttons. But we soon learn the control panel is isomorphic and are mapped only to Kazran.
He also licensed that technology to Cobra.
Well, I like how it feels like just technobabble here, right? That it's isomorphically mapped to Kazran.
Yeah.
And as we will see, there's a very good emotional payoff for that at the end of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and first time I was watching this, I sure didn't think, like, that's going to be important later.
No, I had no idea. I thought it was just to pay off this joke where the Doctor's stubbornly trying to control this before he gives up and says, these controls are isomorphic.
Stephen Moffat is the king of paying off what you think is just the most obscure or most throwaway thing.
Just a joke, yeah, often.
With a huge, like, emotional thing later.
Was my research in this wrong that at some point the TARDIS was meant to be isomorphic? But that was
it was actually. I read that too, and then they just sort of forgot about it.
Okay.
One of the great things about Doctor Who is that, like, the past of the show only matters when you want it to.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
Like, there is so much continuity that just doesn't matter. Well, and even, like, we're going to see in this episode, the Doctor's going to step back in time, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
In the previous season, when Russell T Davies was running the show, over and over, he had the Doctor say, like, once we're part of events, we can't step out of the flow of time.
You can't cross your own timeline.
You can't cross your own timeline.
Yeah, right. I thought that too.
Yeah, and then Moffat takes over, and you just can, and he does it all the time. Because
he calls it timey-wimey.
Yeah, right. Because Russell T Davies didn't want that to be part of the show, and Moffat does. So it just is, you know?
Also, when you said step back in time, it reminded me of, and Russell T Davies, it reminded me of the fact that A, that's a Kylie Minogue song. B, Kylie Minogue was the companion in the
in another Christmas special. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you said back in time, that reminded me, happy Back to the Future Day, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
So he gets to the point. There are 4,003 people in a spaceship trapped in Kazran's cloud belt, and he doesn't have to let them die, but Kazran calmly and almost joyfully spits back, I know, but I'm going to. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's just fun for him.
Yeah, but now you made him angry, and the Doctor now tells Kazran,
There are 4,003 people I won't allow to die tonight. Do you know where that puts you?
Where?
4,004.
Was that a sort of threaty thing?
Whatever happens tonight, remember, you brought it on yourself.
And now I'm back in Christmas Carol mode because that reminded me of Jiminy Cricket as the ghost of Christmas past.
Yeah, for sure.
Yourself.
Oh,
shoot. I haven't seen Mickey's Christmas Carol in forever.
Oh, I've seen it yesterday because my kids watch it all the time. My son especially loves that thing.
I feel like I'm the only one here who does not have kids.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yep.
That sounds accurate. Yeah.
So now Kazran has the Doctor and that family who's still here escorted out. But as they are, the young boy throws something at Kazran's head. Looked like a piece of rubble from the fireplace or a lump of coal.
Yeah.
But Kazran immediately runs after this boy faster than any old man I have ever seen. Raises his hand to hit him, but he stops himself, almost as if he's lost in thought, and then he shouts, "Get him out of here!" And they're gone. Well, the family and the servants are gone, but the Doctor's still here, noting, "You didn't hit that boy." And though Kazran shouts, "Well, I will next time," he continues, "No, you won't."
Yes, I will.
But why? What am I missing? And he paces for a bit in thought before he starts mumbling the chairs. Oh, of course, the chairs. And I'm all like, huh? So the Doctor goes into his fast-talking explaining mode.
There's a portrait on the wall behind me. It looks like you, but it's too old, so it's your father. All the chairs are angled away from it. Daddy's been dead for 20 years, but you still can't get comfortable where he can see you. There's a Christmas tree in the painting, but none in this house on Christmas Eve. You're scared of him, and you're scared of being like him, and good for you. You're not like him, not really. Do you know why?
Why?
Because you didn't hit the boy.
Do you know what? When I was watching this, going back to what I was saying earlier, I really felt like it was like the Sherlock, you know, the Benedict Cumberbatch,
the Mind Palace thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess because it's written by the same guy, I just sort of really, was hitting that.
Right. Well, and I think the reason that it works okay is because Matt Smith and Benedict Cumberbatch like have such different energy that Moffat felt like he could get away with doing it on both shows, you know?
Yeah.
Because Benedict Cumberbatch was so like methodical in his delivery of that stuff, you know? Whereas Matt Smith just like bounces through it. And it's just interesting to watch how different they were.
So the doctor leaves. Now he's outside. He's on the phone with Amy on the ship to catch her up. He found a machine to clear the clouds, but he can't control it. But he met a man who can, but he hates me. It's a fun little conversation where Amy tells him the ship can only stay in the air for about another hour. Meanwhile, the boy's father comes up and shakes the doctor's hand, tells him he's never seen anyone stand up to Mr. Sardic like that before.
Bless you, sir. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Lovely. Sorry, bit busy.
You better get inside, sir. The fog's thick tonight and there's a fish warning.
All right, yeah. Sorry, fish.
Which sounds silly to y'all, but here in Florida, I'm sure we're one bad hurricane away from a real Sharknado. So yeah, fish warning.
Well, the flying fish in this is like such an out of left field idea.
I loved it.
I love it too, but it's one of those things that like I think shouldn't work. Like it should be one idea too many for this episode.
It shouldn't, but it totally does.
But somehow it does. They strike the right tone with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels like part of the Christmas whimsy.
The science adds up as well, doesn't it?
It's such a weird thing to be Christmas whimsy, though.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it's so strange.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Doctor looks up at a lamppost, and lo and behold, a school of tiny fish are swimming in the air. And this, out of everything we've seen so far, is what made me think, okay, now I understand why everyone was so excited for me to see this. It's super weird, even for Doctor Who, but in a whimsical way. Even for Doctor Who.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, like Anthony said, it shouldn't work. Like, flying fish should just be like, no pun intended, a jump the shark thing. And yet somehow it just like it makes sense. Like not only the more you like, you know, as it goes on, but just the way they present it, somehow it makes visual sense.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And the special effects have always been dodgy on Doctor Who. That's part of the charm.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was during a budget cut period too.
Really?
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is I can't believe how relatively good the fish look.
Yeah.
Compared to the RTD era, you know, where it's like the adipose or whatever, the little fat monster.
Yeah.
Like this is some of the best special effects they've still, I think, ever had on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
It is well before the Disney money.
Yeah, right. And I kind of don't know how it holds up as well as it does, because they just spent the money right, I feel like, to make it to get everything out of it. I don't know.
I guess so.
I think the shark looks pretty good. I think the fish look very good.
Yeah. And to add to that whimsy, a clock strikes 11, a couple of speakers on lampposts start playing Ding Dong Merrily on High, and Amy, who's still on the phone, asks,
What is that? Is that singing?
The Christmas Carol.
A what?
The Christmas Carol.
A what?
The Christmas Carol.
That's when it clicks. He's going to give Kazran the Scrooge treatment.
Well, I like that he like explicitly out loud says that he's going to A Christmas Carol. Kazran.
Yes.
You know, like.
And also the fact that this is a man who has gotten to know Charles Dickens.
Yes.
So
yeah, right.
And we cut to Kazran asleep in his chair, facing away from his father's portrait in a mostly dark room. This room looks amazing.
Oh, yeah.
This is exactly what a slightly steampunk version of Scrooge's house should look like.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about, well, there are many things I would say about Doctor Who, but one thing is that even from the very beginning, sets were always on point. Always on point.
Yeah. But I was going to ask, do you think Kazran ate his customary gruel?
I would imagine.
Before we see him here.
And it sufficed.
Customary gruel will suffice, thank you.
I hope so.
And suddenly this screen cuts to a brief second of TV static, followed by a black and white image of a much younger Kazran Sardic recording a video diary.
Hello. My name is Kazran Sardic. I'm 12 and a half. And this is my bedroom.
The young Kazran is played by Lawrence Belcher, who would soon after this play a young Charles Xavier in X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him.
I never put that together, yeah.
He also played Prince William in the Diana movie with Naomi Watts.
Oh, was he in that?
Is it that's the one? Yeah, with Naomi Watts.
He was Prince William, yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
That's not bad, is it? A young Michael Gambon, or young Ebenezer, if you want. A young Charles Xavier, a young Prince William. That's a CV I'd be proud of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So this young Kazran explains in his recording that he's working on a top secret special project, but as he adds Merry Christmas, we hear his father yell his name.
This is my top secret special project. For my eyes only. Merry Christmas.
And the old Kazran's eyes shoot open in horror. And now we see that the young Kazran's video is being projected onto the old Kazran's wall. So he's now face to face with the memory of his angry father, who's also played by Michael Gambon, but with an evil Star Trek goatee.
Goatee equals evil. Always.
Yeah.
We've all seen South Park. We know how it works.
And black hair.
Growls at the young Kazran, who says he wants to film the fish, but his dad shouts, "Fish are dangerous." Then he adds, "You'll be singing to them next," and we don't know what's up with these fish yet. But the young Kazran tries to explain to his dad, singing works, the fish like the singing. But this is met with the back of his father's hand, and the old Kazran reaches for his own cheek as he watches this.
Right. Well, I love that we don't see Kazran get hit, but we see we see the pain still on his old face.
We see him flinch. We see him hold his cheek. That was a really good cut.
Yeah, it's great. Ooh.
And out from behind the chair, faced away from his father's portrait, steps the doctor, who puts his hand on his shoulder and makes him jump. Kazran goes to ring his servant's bell, but the doctor tells him, "Oh, hey, they all quit.
They won the lottery.
They all won the lottery at the same time." And he says, "There is no lottery." And the doctor replies, "Yeah, lucky."
See, what I thought was funny here was he just took the doctor's word for it. He didn't even bother ringing the bell.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
If someone told me that, I'd be like, well, I'll just check anyway.
Yeah.
I'll just double check that they have quit. So, okay, fair enough. They won the lottery that doesn't exist. I take it.
Yeah.
No. He simply quietly asks,
"Who are you?"
Tonight, I'm a ghost of Christmas past.
This is a really well shot scene. It's a really powerful way to get things rolling.
I was thinking actually when you said, especially Jack, when you were saying how you wouldn't have taken him at his word, I was thinking that Kazran did not know rule number 1: the doctor lies.
You're right. Mike, you said this was a well shot scene. Did we talk about Toby Haynes yet? We haven't, right?
No.
So Toby Haynes directed this. He directed 5 episodes of Doctor Who in a row. The season finale right before this one, and then the season premiere right after this.
Okay.
The Hugo Award-winning season finale.
This Hugo Award-winning season finale.
Yes.
And I think he just, he did so much to up the visual style of the show.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had Doctor Who look this good, like I said. And I think that's a credit to him. In the years since, he directed, the USS Callister episode of Black Mirror, the Star Trek riff.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the primary director on Andor season 1.
Loved Andor.
I want to say he directed 6 episodes out of Andor season 1, including the first 3.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, he's a TV guy. He's never directed a feature, I don't think, or maybe only 1 or 2. But I just think he's has such a great visual eye.
Yeah, it's a very cinematic look.
Yeah, Doctor Who and Star Wars streaming show looking better than they ever have.
For real,
under his eye.
Yeah. Kazran soberly tells the doctor he cried all night and learned life's most invaluable lesson: nobody comes. Then he yells at the doctor to get out of his house, and he says, "Okay, but I'll be back, way back." And he opens the door, and there's his TARDIS, closes the door, hops in, and we hear the sound of it time traveling shift from outside the door in the present to inside the video.
See? Back.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm the doctor.
And I think that device, old Kazran watching the home movies of the Doctor, I think that allows us to buy it more than if we followed the Doctor.
Yes. No, this is very well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the young Kazran turns around, looks outside his window, and there's the doctor who opens the window and explains, "I'm your new babysitter." I love this bit.
So Andre mentioned earlier, the first time we see Matt Smith's doctor, he's with Amy when she's a little kid.
Oh,
That's his extended intro is with Amy when she's a child. And that's great. And so they kept pairing him up with children. It happens over and over with Matt Smith's doctor. And like you say, it's that ADHD energy that he has.
Yeah.
I think makes him perfect for that. Because every single one works. And this is another example.
Mm-hmm. Boy asks where his usual babysitter is, and the doctor says she won the lottery. And both Kazrans replies, there isn't any lottery.
Lucky.
Because the old one is still watching, stunned, but the doctor looks into the camera and explains your past is about to change, which means your memories are about to change. Bit scary, but you'll get the hang of it. I love this implication.
Well, Michael Gambon is about to say, this never happened, but it did, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that line delivery.
That never happened. But it did.
When we were watching this, my wife said he could have played that in 13,000 different ways, all wrong, and he chose the perfect one. and that's the thing. Like, there's the way that he says that. It's like he has realized that he does in fact remember all of this in the middle of the statement. Yeah. And I think that's why this works. Because
acting.
Right, but he really does play it like he's going through this emotional journey in a day where he's like remembering all these things.
I mean, he is a master actor.
He is. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yes. No. A master thespian, even.
That's
right.
Actually, when you mentioned Mike about the line about his memories changing, it reminded me of a more recent episode where they say, "If time is memory, then memory is a time machine."
Yeah.
So now we move into the world of Christmas Past with the doctor in 12-year-old Kazran's bedroom, now in color.
Can I say one more thing about Michael Gambon here?
Yes.
So what strikes me is so much of Gambon's role in this is watching his memories on the video. And that's what Scrooge's role always is just like watching his past happen in front of him.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he does in Christmas Past. That's what he does with Belle and at school. But in this one, it's just on a video. Like, he's really doing the same thing Scrooge always does, which is like standing silently by and watching younger actors play himself, you know? So.
And it still works. Doctor here has a moment that means nothing, but it made me cackle, where he opens a cupboard door and says,
"Do you know, there's a thing called a face spider. It's just like a tiny baby's head with spider legs, and it's specifically evolved to scuttle up the backs of bedroom cupboards."
Oh, word? Anyway, Kazran asks if this guy's really his new babysitter, and the doctor shows him his magic passport thingy that shows people whatever form of identification he wants them to see, but all Kazran sees is a bunch of wavy lines. Whoops, it's shorted out, and he finally says, finally, a lie too big.
It's that he's a responsible adult.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Psychic paper.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells him the truth. He's not a real babysitter, but it's Christmas Eve, and you don't want a real babysitter. Then he says, ever seen Mary Poppins? No? Good, because that comparison would have been rubbish. I think everyone watching this was starting to get Mary Poppins vibes, so that line was perfect.
He's Mary Poppins, y'all.
Karen Gillan is in that movie.
Yes, she is. So the doctor asks about the fish in the sky, and Kazran explains his father has invented a machine to control and quote-unquote tame the sky. That way the scary sky fish would only come down when he lets them. But then the doctor tells him, you want to see a fish? We can go see a fish. And this is a great line. Little Kazran asks,
but aren't you going to tell me it's dangerous?
Dangerous? Come on, we're boys. And you know what boys say in the face of danger?
What?
Mummy.
Yeah, I loved that line.
It's perfect.
We've spoken a lot about Michael Gambon's delivery, but every line Matt Smith says in this episode is just pitch perfect.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next thing we see is the Doctor's sonic screwdriver, his trusty little sci-fi pocket knife, but instead of the knifey bit, there's a light that makes noise and does stuff.
I actually had that screwdriver.
Did you?
Yes, my wife actually got me. It wasn't just a replica of his sonic screwdriver. It had like actual screw bits inside. You could actually use it it was a real screwdriver.
Really?
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
That rules. I actually had the 11th Doctor sonic screwdriver as a Wii controller.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
I think we still have it. We don't have a Wii anymore.
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, mine's long gone. But his sonic screwdriver is tied to a rope rigged to a pulley system that runs from the ceiling of Kazran's bedroom all the way to his cupboard, where the two are sitting inside and waiting. They're basically fishing and having the best and stupidest conversation.
So, why are you so interested in fish?
Because they're scary.
Good answer.
What kind of tie is that?
A cool one.
Because bow ties are cool.
Bow ties are cool.
So I watched this 3 times, and that's when it flashes back to Kazran as Michael Gambon, and he reaches up and touches his bow tie.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah.
Was he wearing a bow tie the whole time, or did no one notice? Because I sort of wondered if maybe suddenly he's wearing a bow tie, and it's like, oh yeah, that's when I started wearing one.
I need to go back. I had thought of that. We're going back.
Are you checking it, Anthony?
I'm checking it up. Checking too, yeah.
Because if that's the case that he wasn't wearing it before, then it feeds into something else that I want to bring up once we get to that point.
Yeah, it looks like he does wear it.
He's wearing a bow tie the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, that would have been.
I made a fool of myself.
That's a bummer. No, well, it's
we all did.
Yeah.
That would have been. That they should have though. They really should have done that.
Yeah, he should have not been wearing it. Yeah.
That would have been amazing, because I thought of that too, right as you said that, right as you asked that question. I was like, I thought to look back, and then I never did.
Or was it a predestination paradox?
Ooh, maybe.
Happy Back to the Future days.
That's right.
All right.
So then the Doctor asks, why are you really interested in fish? And Kazran explains there was an attack at his school with the most fish ever seen below the mountains. And he wasn't there to see it. He was homesick. But everyone else at school can't shut up about the fish, and he's never gotten to see one. By the way, the Doctor is recording this with Kazran's laptop camera thing, and we see Kazran's older self watching as there's a tug on the rope. And when the Doctor goes to open the door, the older Kazran shouts, "No, you mustn't!" Because now he remembers what we're about to see happen. Doctor simply tells the younger Kazran, "Trust me," adding, "Eyes on the tie, look at me, I wear it and I don't care, that's why it's cool." Slowly and quietly, the Doctor steps out to see there indeed is a fish nibbling at a screwdriver.
So, little fella, what do you eat?
And then into the window swims a big old flying shark that chomps the little fish in one bite.
I love that scene so much. Like, considering, again, this was like, I believe during a budget cut, like when the BBC cut the show's budget, it should not look as good as it does. And also, generally, I think that the desaturated color palette for something like this is a bad idea. But visually, almost every decision here works. And even having like this realistic looking shark somehow just works.
Yeah, this blew me away. I'm surprised to hear that this was during a budget cut, because it sure doesn't look it.
The shark sort of stops short on the Doctor there, doesn't he?
Yeah. So Kazran, who's still in the cupboard, asks if he can come out, and the Doctor feebly says, "No, not yet." And then he asks, "What color is it?" And the Doctor says, big color. Quickly escapes into the cupboard and tells Kazran on the plus side he thinks he's figured out how the fog works. And now all he has to do is get his sonic screwdriver back from the shark, because it also ate the screwdriver.
This is one of the best lines.
You know, there's a real chance the way it's switching the door is keeping its mouth open.
There is.
Just agree with me, because I've only got 2 goes, and then it's your turn.
2 goes.
2 arms.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess.
One for each arm.
Unfortunately, he's fairly deep into that regeneration. Otherwise, he could have grown it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. There you go.
But then we cut to outside Kazran's window on a little rooftop, where we find out he was able to get part of the screwdriver out and stun the shark with it, because the shark's sitting there wrapped in a blanket. but the screwdriver's been chopped in half. The other half is still inside the shark, which Kazran now realizes is dying. And he's in tears now. He didn't want to kill it. We flash forward briefly to show the old Kazran also in tears as the doctor tells him he doesn't think he can save the shark. He'd need some kind of life support to transport it back to the cloud belt. And Kazran immediately suggests, "You mean like an ice box? I've got one." And the two run downstairs. The doctor stops for a second to admire the Christmas tree in the same room we were in the present. And then the two head down to a basement where we find a great big walk-in freezer with rows and rows of containment units like we saw that young woman in the freezer earlier.
For some reason, when I was watching this, rewatching this, I got They Clone Tyrone vibes. Because in that movie, there's like all these people like in deep freeze in a basement.
I didn't see it.
That's great. It's a lot of fun.
Kazran tells him it's the surplus population.
Yep.
Again, that line comes back.
Yeah. Look, everyone, it's the Matrix Robots freezer. This room is locked with a big bank vault door with a keypad, and the doctor asks what the code is. The younger Kazran doesn't know it yet, but the older Kazran rattles it off repeatedly, 7258. The doctor peeks his head out of the TARDIS behind him and says, "Thank you," runs back down to the cellar in the past to open the vault.
Yeah.
Oh, that rules.
That reminds me so much of Time Crash. That it was a Children in Need mini episode where 5 and 10 met, and their TARDISes kind of crash together, and the only way they get out of it is 10 gets them out of it because he remembers seeing 5 do it. Or no, he remembers 5 watching him do it.
He remembers being 5, seeing 10 do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is, we should note, also written by Stephen Moffat.
Yes.
Okay.
If it's timey-wimey, it's Stephen Moffat.
There you go. Much. All of these freeze chambers are occupied, so they'll have to borrow one to save the shark. Kazran stops and picks one in particular, and of course it's the one containing the young woman we saw in the present. The doctor asks, "Important, is she? I forgot to mention in the present." He asks who's she, and the old Kazran says, "Nobody important."
And the doctor's response is one of the all-time best lines.
Nobody important. Blimey, that's amazing. Do you know, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before.
Yeah, he hasn't met me, Mike. But he certainly hasn't listened to my podcast, because then he definitely knows.
Oh.
That I'm not important.
But he, but that line, I think, like that's the doctor, right?
Yeah.
I've never met anyone who isn't important. That's the doctor in a nutshell.
Exactly. That's one of the all-time best lines in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
The younger Kazran seems to know this person, says she won't mind, she loves the fish. So he punches a code into the side of her container, and a video plays on the portal window of her introducing herself.
My name is Abigail Pettigrew, and I'm very grateful for Mr. Sardic's kindness.
She starts to talk about the fish in a minute.
And now I will introduce this actress. She is Katherine Jenkins. I keep calling her a young woman. She's my age, which means she was 30 in 2010 filming this.
She's not really an actress there, Mike, at all.
No, she's a singer.
This was her first acting role, wasn't it?
Yeah, first acting role.
But she's Welsh, and she's very, very famous in the UK. She had 12 number one in the classical charts, 12 number one albums. She's like not singles really, but broadly famous in the UK. Yeah, as a wonderful singer. Yeah,
wonderful classical singer,
as we will find out shortly in this episode,
and also a dancer as well.
Does she dance?
Oh, I thought you guys would know this. So I didn't know this until I was researching season 14 of Dancing with the Stars.
Oh,
she came second. And that really surprised me because I didn't know she was sort of famous in the US. Her album sales in the US have been decent, but not like I think she's had like top 3 and top 5 albums in the. I don't know if that was the classical charts or what charts it was, but I was looking it up. But yeah, so she came second. I forget who. I think it was some sportsman, maybe an American footballer that won that season, but she did really well.
Let me check. It says season 14.
Yeah,
celebrity winner Donald Driver.
That's a football player, yeah.
Yeah, the Packers. Yeah.
Football, yeah. Would you have been familiar with her back then?
Well, I mean, I've only ever been familiar with her because of this episode. You know, like this is the reason I know who she is.
Not gonna lie, I had dropped off Dancing with the Stars by this point in time, but looking back at this, I remember the run up to this season only because Julia White was on it.
Nice.
Oh.
She outlasted Urkel.
Right.
Wow.
And Gladys Knight.
And wow.
Oh, wow.
And Martina Navratilova. Holy crap.
Martina Navratilova went out first week, I think. See, I'm familiar with Dancing with the Stars, but only because I've heard of it. I've never seen an episode. But I was really surprised that...
That's fine.
Because it's a big show, isn't it? And they have a lot of famous people. So I was surprised to see that she'd made it across the pond to be in something like that. But then it sounds like you guys hadn't heard of her then anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 years after this Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that
maybe.
is, and as we discussed, that really is like peak Doctor Who popularity in the US time.
Okay.
So I don't know if it would have anything to do with it, but that's the like few years where it might have, you know?
Also, Dancing with the Stars was not as popular at this point in its run as it was its first few seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I never watched it. I never got on board.
I watched the first few episodes. I remember when Kelly Monaco won, but I knew about this season only because Julia White. Honestly, the lineup here: you had Julia White, Gladys Knight, Maria Menounos, Martina Navratilova, Jack Wagner, Frisco from General Hospital, Sherry Shepard
from 30 Rock. In my heart.
From 30 Rock and The View, and now her own talk show. Yeah, and Melissa Gilbert.
Oh my goodness.
Laura Ingalls Wilder herself.
Yeah, former SAG-AFTRA president.
Yeah, right. All right.
And the voice of the original voice of Batgirl.
Batgirl, yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. First before the reboot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of Batman the Animated Series. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, this was kind of a crazy lineup talent wise, and to think that Katherine Jenkins, who as far as like a U.S. following, was probably more of a cult figure, even at that point, outlasted everyone. Especially when you think that there's a fan component to it with the phone voting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So she must have just been really impressive.
She must have been.
Yeah.
She'll sing for us here in a bit. For now, we learn Kazran's watched this recording before. That's how he knows she loves the fish. We also hear her recording thank Kazran's father, Elliot Sardik, calling him a great patron for the poor. So now the doctor asks, why are all these people frozen here? And the young Kazran explains his father's a moneylender who takes family members as collateral, or security is the word his father uses. I shuddered a bit at the thought that some really rich person is watching this taking notes like, not bad. Yes, very bad.
I mean,
yep.
Rich Silicon Valley guys love sci-fi.
Yeah.
That is true.
I'm sure Bezos has watched
Nobody take notes.
this episode. Please, yeah, exactly. Please don't.
Speaking of very bad, right around now is when the half-eaten sonic screwdriver starts making a signal to the other half. And as the doctor explains that, he realizes, oh no, that means the shark's coming. And here she is.
This is the only time in this episode, I think, right? When we get the 11th Doctor's theme song, I Am the Doctor. Right?
Okay.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had that ready to go. Well done.
Yeah. Because I love that. I think I wish it was, like, I was bummed out. I kind of didn't realize it was specifically the 11th Doctor's theme until he regenerated and they stopped using it.
Oh. Yeah, because it first appeared in the 11th hour.
Yeah, I did not know this.
Yeah, and I miss it because I think it's some of Murray Gold's finest work.
It is really good.
So Kazran runs through the aisles between the containers as his older self shouts, "Run!" Is he still seeing all this? I thought the camera laptop thing was stationary.
I thought that as well, yeah.
I think he's remembering it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the point is that this is the doctor showing him Christmas past, so fine, don't think about it. But focus on the being stalked by a shark part. We see its fin float by, and as it gets closer, we suddenly hear Abigail's beautiful voice sing in the bleak midwinter.
My wife just like sighed so happily when Catherine Jenkins started singing when we were watching this the other night because she loves it so much.
I think at some point we've all sung a Christmas carol to a shark, haven't we?
Sure.
I mean, once or twice.
And soothed it. That's just...
I'm rewatching it last night, and I'm thinking, oh, they had to have dubbed her. And then I realized, oh, wait, no. That's her voice. Holy crap.
That's her voice.
Because I didn't remember that. It had been a long time since I've seen it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't remember that they actually cast like a real-ass opera singer. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
yep.
That's why they cast her,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like Kazran tried to tell his father, the fish do like when people sing to them. We see Abigail out of her container singing to the shark as she gently strokes its back. This is the best use of a Christmas song and a marine animal I've seen all year.
I've seen a few better ones, but I did like this.
Forget Flipper.
Yeah, before this, I watched Santa and the Three Bears, and one version of that is bookended by this dumb promotional video for Ocean World, a now closed attraction in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That version closes with a montage of porpoises swimming in a way too small aquarium to the music of this other dreamy Christmas song. It was so stupid. This is great.
I read that during production, they codenamed the sharks Clive.
Clive?
I think that's what I read last night when I looked it up.
I like it. And while Abigail continues singing, the doctor goes on a geeky Neil deGrasse Tyson-style science rant about why the fish like it. Because the sound resonates in the ice crystals, and the fish are attracted to the lingering delta wave pattern.
Yeah, as a scientist, I can say that does check. I've looked into it, and yeah.
Thank you.
Well, what is great about the technobabble, though, is that he also keeps complaining about the fish biting him. Because the joke being that they apparently hate having to hear the technobabble, right?
Also, that the fish are biting.
They are, yeah.
Get it?
Yes.
Right. But I think Stephen Moffat knows that we, the audience, also don't really want to hear the technobabble. So he has the doctor keep being interrupted and being like, why are they biting me? Which I think is so funny.
Oh, yeah. And Kazran's trying to listen to the song, too, so he tells the doctor to shut up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that kid was an inexperienced actor at this point, from what I read. And this scene, he's great.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does a good job, yeah.
We then cut to the older Kazran, who turns around and looks at the portrait on the wall behind him, which is now of Abigail.
Yeah.
This is wild.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it doesn't last. That's what I didn't get. She's there 1 minute and she's not what?
Yeah.
No, it's as the past continues to be written. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see later what happens with young adult Kazran and her. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meant to have changed back.
Right. So the doctor moves the shark into Abigail's icebox and loads him onto the TARDIS. And here's where we run into another instance of someone said the thing. Old Kazran, remembering, begins it, and his younger self and Abigail finish.
It's bigger on
The inside.
Yeah.
Mark it on your bingo card. So as the doctor takes the other two to return the shark to the sky, Kazran takes out his little steampunk camera to photograph the event. And back in the present, his older and suddenly happier self skips over to take out a small lockbox full of these photos.
Am I the only one who felt a little nostalgic seeing this version of the TARDIS, by the way?
Oh, no. This is at least on the new series, this is my favorite TARDIS interior. I love it so much. And it's just 2 seasons, and
Do they change it? I guess they do, if you're saying you're nostalgic for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They change it again a bunch of times.
Okay.
You'll see.
Yeah. They change it pretty much for every doctor, I believe.
Yeah.
He redecorates, as he becomes a new person.
He changes the desktop theme, as they say in Time Crash.
Time Crash, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I enjoy the new one. It looks basically like if you took the classic series TARDIS and made it interior and made it 3 times bigger.
Okay.
But
I like that. I like that too.
I do, and I did enjoy seeing Matt Smith's TARDIS again.
Right. Although my understanding is that it was really hard to shoot in this one because there's so many mirrors and reflective surfaces.
Oh, I
So
bet.
they had to choose their angles carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. Looking at it,
And they do.
Oh yeah, because the console also is clear.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
And reflective, yeah.
Back in the past, as the Doctor closes the icebox again, he notices a counter on it that reads 8. So he asks Abigail what that number means, and she says it has something to do with her, not the fish, and the Doctor asks, okay, but how? And both of them answer each other's questions with other questions.
You are a doctor, you say? Are you one of mine?
Do you need a doctor?
Just use your words.
Right.
It reminded me of when he actually literally says in the series 1 finale to Rose, "I think you need a doctor," which is one of the cringier lines in the entire series.
Yeah. So we cut to Abigail preparing to go back on ice, and for some reason, little Kazran blurts out that the Doctor comes every Christmas Eve, and the Doctor's like, wait, what? And he says, yup, and shuts the door.
He's like, I guess I gotta come every Christmas Eve, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I like that Abigail invites them back, though. She's like, what does she say? What's her line? Stop by any time or whatever?
Yeah.
If you should ever wish to visit again.
Well, if I'm ever in the neighborhood.
He comes every Christmas Eve.
Right.
I like that it's not just the two men forcing her out of there every year without asking.
Right, yeah. No, she's like, yeah, feel free to take me out of the ice again. And this is when the younger Catherine says, oh, he comes every Christmas Eve.
Yeah, he does every time. He promises.
No, I don't. What does your sister want for Christmas? A diamond-encrusted toaster?
Dunno. Give her a quick call. Hang on. Hello, Penelope Belshare.
Penny, your name's not Belshare, it's Belcher.
Oh, it's you, sis.
Just wondering what you and the kids wanted for Christmas.
Well, I'm with my personal shoppers now. I'm thinking Samsung camera.
Samsung camera.
In pink.
In pink. Felicity loves
Zuzu hamsters, and Tarquin would adore Guitar Hero.
No problem.
Are you sure, darling?
I'll even have my man deliver them.
This Christmas at Tesco, we've got the latest toys and gifts at great prices. Plus, with Tesco Direct, you can collect in store or we'll deliver.
Merry Christmas, Mrs. Belcher.
It's Belshare, actually.
Christmas at Tesco.
Come on, sweetie, come on.
Every little helps.
Hi everyone, I'm Dwayne from the Tinsel Tunes podcast, and I have a questionably unhealthy obsession with Christmas, and I love Christmas music. So come with me on a journey as I go into detail about the history and stories behind a wide range of Christmas music. For instance, did you know that Silent Night has the honour of being the most recorded Christmas song of all time, and has been recorded over 137,000 times by separate artists? Or that White Christmas was actually written in the height of summer? Each song, either recent or a golden oldie, has a background, and I want to share them with you. Come join us for our second season and listen at tinseltunes.com. We are on all the main podcast services, or you can find us with a simple Google search. Also follow us on all the social networking platforms, and I hope to interact with you soon.
And we see the door shut and then open what seems like a second later to us, but in their time, it's a year later. The Doctor and Kazran, now in Santa hats, declare Merry Christmas! And they all go merrily running out of the cellar, while we stay behind and notice the counter on Abigail's door now clicks to 7.
Can I just go back quickly? Just when it opens, she's like, Doctor! You've got to remember that bit, because it changes, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It does,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Merry Christmas!
Doctor!
Also, when let me make sure it's the second one, I believe it is. When they're wearing Santa hats, or is it? It's
Yes.
later. One of them, young Kazran, is wearing a scarf in Fourth Doctor colors.
Yes, he is.
He's wearing,
Yes.
it's small.
Yes.
It's not like a giant scarf, but
No, but I did note that.
Also, he wears a suit that looks a lot like the second Doctor's.
oh yeah, that's true.
I wanted to mention that when we mentioned the bow tie bit, that Child Kazran's outfits sort of pay homage to previous Doctor incarnations.
Yeah, I did notice. I noticed the scarf. I noticed one year they're wearing fez hats. Wikipedia made it a point to mention that. I haven't watched past this special yet, but apparently the 11th Doctor becomes a big fez guy, or at least attempts to.
Fezzes are cool.
Right. Well, he was wearing fezzes in Pandorica Opens in the Big Bang.
Yeah, he was.
Right,
Actually, yeah.
right. That's where it starts.
I think that's where it starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
He tried to get a Stetson over, but that's later.
That's going to happen.
That did not last long.
Ah, well. But now we have to mentally keep that number 7 in the back of our minds while we're watching this, while these jerks go back on a holly jolly adventure. What are they doing this time? The Doctor's got a carriage and a harness and half a sonic screwdriver, which he uses to summon the shark.
Here's Clive.
And they all go on a one shark open sleigh ride through the sky.
That rules. Love that.
Yeah.
This is the moment I realized, oh, this is why everyone wanted me to watch this, but no one would tell me any details about it, because they wanted me to be surprised by this scene, and it ruled.
Oh, man, I'm so glad.
Best to discover it on your own,
Yeah.
It's like, Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner and Blitzen. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Jabberjaw.
On Clive. Mike, actually, I gotta say though, I actually enjoy sort of reliving, like seeing this for the first time through your eyes.
Good.
Yeah. Same.
Happy to help.
Yeah.
So as we skip to them cheerfully opening Abigail's chamber every Christmas Eve, the old Kazran is sitting on his floor looking at all these photos he's taken of his adventures with the Doctor and Abigail, fascinated at all these new memories he has and photos he took which now exist. I did notice, here's where I noticed, that every time they wake up Abigail, the first thing she says is, "Doctor!
Merry Christmas,
Doctor!"
Until one year when she says,
Merry Christmas!
and she looks him up and down.
So they keep opening the door, and it's like a new year. And Kazran ain't growing much.
No!
It's like, I would have thought he'd go for a spurt at some point. But then, one year, it's not the same actor, and he's got his head down so you can't see his face.
Yeah, I'm a little taller.
and I've completely changed my face, but I'm not going to show you it. And then the next year is the one where she sees Kazran and, oh, hello.
Yeah.
Like a meet cute.
Yeah, because Kazran has now grown into a strapping young man. This young adult Kazran is played by Danny Horn.
Right?
No relation to your good friend and founder of toughpigs.com that we know of.
He is no relation. In fact, I asked my good friend Danny Horn, the founder of toughpigs.com and the co-founder of Muppet Wiki.
Yes.
I asked him if he was related to this guy or knew anything. He didn't. He had never heard of him before this episode aired.
Okay.
But Danny Horn, my friend, is the person who recommended Doctor Who to me when it came back.
Oh.
In 2005. So he's a huge fan. I mean, he's a Doctor Who guy from way back.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So Danny Horn, I had a look at his IMDb, and the only thing that was of really any note was, other than this, was he was in 31 episodes of a soap opera called Emmerdale, and that's probably our sort of third top soap opera in the UK. It's been going since the 70s, I think, Emmerdale.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and Fraser Hines was on that for a long time, right? Who was Jamie on Doctor Who in the 60s, a second Doctor companion.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the only reason I know what that is, Yeah,
so back in the old days, it was called Emmerdale Farm, and then I think maybe in the 90s, they just changed it to Emmerdale. Yeah, and he was at 31 episodes. That's not bad, but but other than that, he's not done a lot at all.
Not for a soap opera.
A month, right?
Yeah.
Right. A daytime soap, that's not that many episodes, really.
Yeah.
No.
This looks like it was Danny Horn's first acting role after graduating from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama that same year. I noticed he also played Ray Davies of the Kinks in a stage musical, Sunny Afternoon. And he's a musician himself who's put out a couple of albums in the last few years.
Okay. I don't think he's nearly as impressive here as Lawrence Belcher is.
No.
No.
I agree.
I find him kind of bland.
Abigail doesn't.
Right, that's true.
But this time when they wake up Abigail, we, but not they, see her counter is now down to 3. And after a bunch of adventures to all sorts of places in all sorts of years, Abigail requests to stay on this Christmas Eve so she can go and visit her family. So we see her waiting outside the door of her family's small house, looking through the window as they prepare their own Christmas Eve dinner. All the while, Kazran and the Doctor are standing a bit away watching her, and Kazran notices Abigail's crying. So as a young man who's suddenly feeling his feelings, he whispers to the doctor,
When girls are crying, are you supposed to talk to them?
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, this doctor is very, very, very uneasy around women.
Which is weird because he's the one who has like a long-running love interest, right? By which I mean River Song.
Well, keep in mind that their relationship is like running backwards.
Right.
No, right.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm just saying two things are true, is that he's like unusually awkward around women, and two, he's really the only doctor who has like a long-term love interest arc.
Well, no, actually not quite. Because I firmly believe that Romana 2 and 4 and the fourth
fair
Doctor.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough as far as headcanon. It's also never mentioned on screen, including in City of Death, which basically feels like they're on a date. You know, like...
I mean, Romana 1, there was this sort of will they, won't they sexual tension. And then Romana 2, it just felt like, yeah, no, they're totally a thing.
You know, Tom Baker and Lala Ward were married.
They got married. Well, yeah.
During that, yeah.
Also, he had a granddaughter anyway from the beginning.
Right. No. I'm just saying, like, on screen, he's the only one to have, like, I mean, we could talk about Rose or whatever, too, I guess. But you know what I mean.
That's it. That's my only reference point at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Rose, yeah.
So Kazran gives it a shot, and it doesn't go great. Abigail explains this is the home of her sister's family, and they look so happy, and Kazran says they look very poor. Way to go, kid.
Smooth.
I mean, he is rich.
Abigail replies they are very poor. It doesn't mean they can't be happy, and Kazran asks, but then why aren't you? And she tells him, because this is the life I can never have. And Kazran's had a very sheltered childhood, so he doesn't really understand any of this.
He doesn't get that his dad is worse than he thinks.
Right. Well, he's about to understand, because inside the house, we suddenly see the doctor inviting them in.
Yeah, when he says, come in, I was almost expecting, come in and know me better, man.
No, you should have.
He's the Ghost of Christmas Past anyway, isn't he? So it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, he's still in Christmas Past here.
Yeah.
Probably just sitting back watching this kid whiff, so he thinks, guess I'll have to get this moving as well. So we go inside and meet Abigail's sister, Isabella, who is played by Laura Rogers.
That's Sadik's boy, isn't it?
He's not like his father.
His father treats everyone like cattle. One day that boy will do the same.
No, he's different.
Here's how Wikipedia describes her career. Rogers' highest profile roles to date have been single mother and former drug addict Sheena Williams in Series 7 of the ITV drama Bad Girls, and Chastity Green in the BBC miniseries The Sins. And this.
All right.
I should mention the older Isabella was Meg Wynne Owen, who was in the 2005 film Pride and Prejudice without zombies as Mrs. Reynolds.
Laura Rogers is also does a voice role in 2 of the Witcher games.
Oh.
Well done.
Never played them.
I just saw that also in her Wikipedia.
Okay. Thank you.
But I know that those are like hugely popular.
So Isabella asks why, during all those Christmas Eves, didn't she visit them? And Abigail simply says, I'm here now. And Isabella asks her to stay for tomorrow's Christmas dinner, but she can't. So Isabella announces tomorrow's Christmas dinner is canceled because they're having it tonight.
Yay!
That's nice.
Yeah, that was a gotcha moment for me. I like how that turned out. So they all have a delightful Christmas dinner with their hats and crackers while this camera makes it a point to peek under the table so we can see Abigail and Kazran holding hands.
Aww.
Now, Jack, I got a question for you as a British person. In this episode, they have very high quality hats that they got out of the crackers.
Oh no, they're nothing like that. They are. It's. Imagine a tissue that you'd blow your nose with. That's but in a circle. Not much better.
Yeah, because those are the ones I've seen.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm watching this. I'm thinking, where did they get their crackers from?
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that because that's what I thought.
And they're meant to be poor?
Hey, yeah.
No way, man.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, my wife's family also does that for Christmas. And
does she? Okay.
Yeah, definitely Definitely not that that quality merchandise there.
Right. I don't even know how they could fold them up and fit them in there.
I know. I thought it's terrible. Yeah. See, the thing is, what's the worst thing is when you get your hat, and I'm the kind of person I like to keep it on nearly all day, at least definitely through the whole meal. And you put it on, and because I'm a grown man now, I put it on my head and it rips. And you're like, oh,
oh, sure. Yeah.
I'll still leave it on, but it's not the same. See, if I had their sort of poor person money, I'd be fine. But as it stands, I'm even poorer than them.
Oh, man.
Well, it is another planet, you know? It's like, you know.
I've got 4 of my relatives in deep freeze. They only have 1.
Well, we're back in the cryogenics room, speaking of that. And Abigail tells the doctor she'd like to say goodnight to Kazran, and the doctor just stands there for a second, waiting before he realizes, oh, you mean alone. Okay. Y'all ever been the awkward third wheel before? It's fun.
Yes, actually, I have.
Well, as awkward as that is for the doctor, before he leaves, Kazran walks up to him and whispers, Doctor, I think she's going to kiss me. I've never kissed anyone before. What do I do? And this is the best advice I have ever heard.
Oh, yes, this is blinding. This is
a little bit blind.
Try and be all nervous and rubbish and a bit shaky. Why? Because you're going to be like that anyway. You might as well make it part of the plan, then it'll feel on purpose. Off you go then.
Yeah, it's great.
Best advice.
Yeah.
At least as far as kissing someone for the first time is concerned. He adds, it's either this or go to your room and design a new kind of screwdriver. Don't make my mistakes.
That's an extremely Steve at Moffat line.
Is it?
Impossible to imagine the doctor saying that if anyone else, you know, like at any other era of the doctor.
Yeah.
But I really like that she initiates the romance between them.
Yes.
That it's not like this kid who's been thinking about her for years being like, you're back out of your box, let's kiss, you know. Like,
no. She makes the first move.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then we check back in with the older Kazran looking at photos of his younger self's adventures on another Christmas Eve with the Doctor and Abigail in places around Earth, like the Statue of Liberty and Australia, and he lingers on one labeled California 1952. And we fade into that memory, where we find Abigail sitting alone by a lit swimming pool at what we're supposed to infer is Frank Sinatra's Hollywood home during that party with Santa.
Wait, I thought the party with Santa was at his hunting lodge.
Oh, the hunting lodge. Spent a lot of Christmases with Frank Sinatra, I guess.
We all have, really.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, because Kazran says the doctor's going to do a duet with Frank. But Abigail is visibly upset here, and she says she has something to tell Kazran. It's a very bad thing. But instead of letting us hear what it is, we cut to the doctor running through and saying,
Guys, we've really got to go quite quickly. I just accidentally got engaged to Marilyn Monroe.
Not the first time that he'd accidentally get engaged to someone important.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see remember the Shakespeare Code episode?
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. At the end when she bursts in and, well, they actually, should you continue your Doctor Who journey, they'll revisit that.
You'll see.
Ooh.
In one of the best episodes ever, by the way.
But I did look it up, and in 1952, Marilyn Monroe, she was dating Joe DiMaggio, but they weren't married or even engaged yet, so this is believable.
yeah, believable.
Yeah, that's one word for it. Yeah.
That's a word.
About the flying fish.
Yes.
She liked smart guys, you know? Einstein, the doctor, you know?
But while he's explaining that, the other two have started kissing again, and they are locked in. They're not paying him any attention, so he's just like, fine, I'll go and get married then. Marilyn, get your coat. After he walks away, Kazran asks Abigail what they're going to do, and Abigail admits there's nothing they can do. We cut back to the cryogenics room again, and Abigail and Kazran bid a sad goodnight to each other. After which Kazran asks the doctor to stop their Christmas Eve tradition, says it's getting a bit old, and he's working for his dad now, and he's going to focus on that, on controlling the cloud belt. Wow, just like that?
Yeah, do you know what? This is the one bit that I just couldn't get on board with.
No.
Flying fish I can handle, but the fact that, why didn't he tell the doctor the situation? I didn't think that.
No, he decides, I'm going to be a jerk now.
Yeah, it's like you're friends with a guy who literally has a machine that can go through time and space, and can do all manner of things, and you don't think that maybe, just maybe, he might be able to help save Abigail?
You would think.
Yeah. Also, he's a doctor. That's in his name.
Yeah.
He's a doctor. Maybe not a medical doctor per se, but still.
But he says, sorry, I didn't realize I was boring you. Not sarcastically, rather sweetly. Catherine says it's not your fault. Times change. And as he walks away, the doctor remarks, not as much as I'd hoped. So he stops Catherine and gives him his half of the sonic screwdriver as a Christmas gift.
Merry Christmas. And if you ever need me, just activate it. I'll hear you.
I won't need you.
So now the doctor knows something's up. What's Catherine not telling him? But he doesn't answer. He just walks away and locks the vault behind him as we see what we already really knew was up. Abigail's counter is now down to 1.
So at this point, we still don't know what the counter means, do we?
We haven't been told explicitly, but
no.
We haven't been told explicitly. We're just inferring.
I think we know.
Yeah. The way they show the counter here, it's pretty much visually confirming. Yeah, something like she's
Well, and I mean, like the first time we find out about it, right? It's like that number pertains to me. Are you one of my doctors? Like, I mean,
true.
That's basically telling us that she's sick, right? Like. I think if we're paying attention, we get it then. I don't know. But like I said, also, I've seen this 15 times. So.
Yeah, that helps.
That's another thing about Moffat scripts. Like, they reward, if you're paying attention, they reward the hell out of you, his scripts, because it's like there's all sorts of just layers and details that he works in there. And you got to be paying attention to get all of it. But if you do, it makes it that much better.
But he couldn't have kept that bow tie off from the beginning of the episode. One difficulty that a lot of Christmas Carol adaptations have is the transition from Fezziwig's party, where we see Scrooge having a great time, to him being a much colder young man as Belle leaves him. It's an extremely sharp turn they have to make. And this scene was where they made it, and it's a really striking difference to see the young adult Kazran almost instantly go from bumbling, love-struck young lad to jerk mode.
Yeah, it doesn't quite land as well as it could.
But this is also where we see old Kazran in the chair look back at the portrait of his father.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's back to being his dad.
It's back to being his dad.
Which is, I think that's what we're supposed to take from... He breaks it off with Abigail or whatever, right? And so now he doesn't have her picture hanging up because he doesn't want to think about her.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good way that they show the present changing.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I'd compare the way the details like this are changing in the present, less with Back to the Future and more with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they're trying to break out all the historical figures from jail and they keep having to remind themselves to do stuff later, like remember a trash can.
Right. Happy San Dimas history report day, Mike.
I'm an episode too early to be quoting Keanu. Anyway, now that he's remembering the Christmas Eve when his dad shows him his newly completed weather control pipe organ machine thing, the isomorphic one. Mm-hmm. And here's where Dad explains why he wants to control the clouds and the fish that swim in them.
People are cattle. If you want to control cattle, you need to control their predators.
Kazran looks away for a second and then excuses himself, and he goes into a desk drawer, pulls out his half of the screwdriver, and before he can even turn it on, there's the doctor outside his window with a hopeful smile on his face before Kazran shuts the curtains on him and puts the screwdriver back.
As much as I feel like this turn is clunky, Danny Horn, really good at playing, kind of going from love-struck teenager to jerk young adult.
Yeah.
He's got the face. He's got the face for both.
He does.
Yeah. That's a really good scene, that is, as well. When the doctor stood at the window, I thought that looked really cool.
Oh, it's a great looking scene.
Oh, yeah, it really did.
I was so disappointed. When he gets up and just draws the curtains, like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Kind of almost Batman-esque.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. We then flash forward to the same drawer in the present, now with a layer of cobwebs and dust, and the old Kazran takes out the screwdriver and holds it up to his cheek and pauses for a moment in thought before the phone rings. Oh, it's the president again, and he's now back to his cheeky, I don't care if thousands of people die attitude.
Well, and you said we cut, but we actually don't cut. The lighting just changes, right?
Oh, yeah. The cobwebs just kind of fade in.
Yeah, it's like seamless. It's like we stay on the same shot of the looking down at the drawer. Danny Horn closes it, Michael Gambon opens it, and now it's full of cobwebs and things, which I think is really nice. It's a nice little touch.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
Cinema.
But he tells the president, as a very old friend of mine once took a very long time to explain, life isn't fair, and he hangs up.
Yeah.
Steps over his pile of photos of Abigail and, smiling for a second before one of those thousands of people about to die suddenly appears in his room via hologram. It's Amy. Remember Amy? She gets to be the ghost of Christmas Present. Too bad she's dressed like a sexy cop.
Hello.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
You didn't think this was over, did you? I'm the ghost of Christmas Present.
A ghost? Dressed like that?
You know, it's funny because the second time of watching this, I suddenly thought, oh, Amy's barely in this.
Yeah.
You get such a long stretch where they don't cut back to the spaceship at all. It's all about the Doctor. And then suddenly she's back again. I thought, oh, yeah, she gets a few minutes. Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, remember her?
Yeah, it's a nice little part for her once she finally shows up here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this was the first special since the Christmas Invasion where a regular series companion really shows up.
That is correct.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean Donna's in Runaway Bride, but she's not a regular.
She's
yet.
not a regular
she's still
yet.
a guest. Yeah.
Tate. And then it's Kylie Minogue in Voyage of the Damned, and then it's the next Doctor, and then it's I mean, if you count End of Time, they're all in that, you know.
Yeah, and that's less Donna and more her dad, right?
Her grandfather.
Grandfather.
Yeah. But then we also see Donna and Martha and Mickey and everybody at the very end.
Oh, that's right.
When he's going around to say goodbye before he regenerates.
It's still, like a cameo thing.
Yeah, it's a very brief cameo, yeah.
Yeah. With the specials, it's normally just kind of seeing the Doctor with high profile guest star or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Amy's almost convincing as a legit ghost of Christmas Present for a second before Rory pushes her away, steps into the hologram camera and tells Kazran, eyes off the skirt.
Yeah.
And Amy pushes back into frame. Kazran's very confused. You turned into a Roman. Yeah, I do that. And I also do this. And she disappears.
It's great.
And there's not even a second of silence before we hear the faint sound of people singing Silent Night. Kazran follows the sound of the singing to the vault, where we find dozens of people inside all dressed up and singing, but they're not other frozen security deposits. Amy reappears and explains they're other holograms of people on board her ship singing for their lives. Then she asks which one's Abigail. And Kazran looks at her as if she really was a ghost, but she explains, the Doctor told me. He never holds back, you know him.
And he says, I didn't, yeah.
And Kazran asks, how do I know him? I never met him before tonight, and now I seem to have known him all my life. I like that he realizes this, but I hate that he doesn't seem to understand how that's possible, despite knowing that the Doctor took him time traveling.
I think it's just a lot to process.
I guess.
It's the new memories. Because all of that is part of the new memories, you know?
Yeah.
It also kind of reminds me of the movie Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
I thought that.
Let me explain. So in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, people from the far future come back in time, claiming to be able to help the past deal with Godzilla because Godzilla will ultimately destroy everything. So they go back in time and prevent Godzilla's creation. And when they come back to the present, everything is effed up, and now King Ghidorah, which is their monster, has been born and is holding everyone hostage. But everyone remembers that Godzilla existed.
Huh.
Even though they've wiped Godzilla from existence, everyone remembers that there was a Godzilla. So
this is like the reverse of that almost.
Sometimes time travel writing. You can be a Stephen Moffat and you're still going to make a mistake here and there.
I guess so. Well, Amy explains, since you're the only person who can let our ship land, the doctor was trying to, well, the way she words it is, turn you into a nicer person. She says time can be rewritten. But Kazran spits back, people can't. And as he marches past the singing holograms over to Abigail's container and tells Amy he'd never have known her if the doctor hadn't changed the course of his whole life to suit himself.
Yeah, he shouldn't know that.
Saving 4,003 people is suiting oneself. Amy asks why he doesn't just let Abigail out, and Kazran finally spells out what we've always known.
Abigail was ill when she went into the ice, on the point of death. I suppose the rest on the ice helped her. But she's used up her time.
All but a single day. And so tell me, Ghost of Christmas Present, how do I choose which day? And Amy apologizes, but adds that's more time than she and everyone else on the ship has, which, remember, is now probably a whole lot less than an hour. And Kazran just says, good.
Yeah.
So Amy tells Rory to widen the hologram beam, and Kazran finds himself virtually inside the ship. And Amy tells him, since you're going to let us all die tonight, I thought you might like to see where it's going to happen. I like this.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, it works well.
Anthony, you and I have talked before about how we like it when the Ghost of Christmas Present gets to be a bit sassy, and here's Amy's turn.
Yeah, right. This is very much the ignorance and want moment.
Yeah,
in the original book, where it's just like this. This is the people who are suffering.
Yeah,
this is what you actually could be helping, and you're not.
Everyone else is still singing, and when Kazran questions it, he seems less like Scrooge and more like the Grinch, which I like. Came without ribbons. But as Rory explains, the singing was the doctor's idea, because remember what we learned about singing? The harmonies resonate in the ice crystals. It's why the fish like it, and he was hoping it would help stabilize the ship, but it's not powerful enough. But as the ship's captain tells us, they haven't told the passengers that yet, so they're still singing for their lives.
Nobody has to die.
Everybody has to die.
Not tonight.
Tonight's as good as any other night. How do you choose?
So Amy gets on her phone, asks, Doctor, did you hear that? And he says, I can hear. And Kazran's surprised to learn the doctor's here, but as soon as he asks where he is, the hologram beam shuts off, and Kazran's back in his vault, right in front of the doctor, who apologizes for what he's done. He didn't realize. You didn't realize. You're the one who asked Abigail why she needs a doctor, and then you got distracted by something shiny. I can't even remember what.
It's always the shiny things.
Oh, yes, I do. We cut to a different scene, but...
Yeah.
Kazran asks why he's here, and the doctor replies, I'm not finished with you yet.
You've seen the past, present, and now you need to see the future.
Kazran's ready. Go ahead. What, I die cold, alone, and afraid? Everyone does. And then he says,
Do you know why I'm going to let those people die? Not a plan. I don't get anything from it. It's just that I don't care. I'm not like you. I don't even want to be like you. I don't and never, ever will care.
Doctor simply replies, I don't believe that. So Kazran demands, show me the future then. Prove me wrong. And the doctor says,
I love this bit. I love this so much.
I am. Yes. Then he calls out, so what do you think? And he looks behind Kazran, who turns around and sees himself as a boy, and I thought this was brilliant.
Yeah, it's like, you think that he's just going to, like, bring in someone else as, like, the Ghost of Christmas Future, and it's like, oh no, he is his own Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah.
Well, the moment where Kazran says, what, I'm going to die cold, alone, and afraid, we all do. That, to me, feels like Stephen Moffat genuinely critiquing Dickens.
Yeah.
Like being like, Ebenezer Scrooge is a hateful old man. He wouldn't care if he dies alone. He would already know it. That's not going to turn him.
Right.
And so then for this to be like, no, you've become your father, and here's you as a young boy seeing it. Look into your own eyes as a little kid, realizing that he's going to become everything he hates. It's.
I love how they flipped it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredibly clever. Do you know what the saddest thing is? like I said, the first time I watched this was 2 weeks ago, but I'm a big fan of Mary Britsman's podcast. Shout out to Mary Britsman's podcast.
Hey, Adam.
If you're not listening to it. And he covered this episode and he spoiled it. He told us everything that happened. Just like anyone that's listening to this now, if you haven't seen the episode, we've spoiled it for you. Sorry, guys. Because I hadn't seen it before, I can imagine when he's talking about it on the show, I was hit by it. I thought, what an amazingly clever ending. And I was mildly disappointed when I watched this myself. And I knew that his younger self was there. I thought I still loved the moment, but I didn't get the twist. I didn't get the kick, But it's just so very good because that is the thing, isn't it?
I skipped that episode of Mary Britsmas because I know I didn't want to be spoiled because I remember everyone saying, wait until you get to it.
Yeah.
So listeners, if you just got spoiled for this,
it's your own fault.
Go back in time. Go back in time before you heard this podcast. Watch the episode. Yeah, hop in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And Jack, I want to say, wait 10 years, watch this one again, and I'm sure that you'll get that feeling.
I don't know. I think I'll still remember it. It's that clever. It really did hit me.
It still works though. This is one of the best twists in A Christmas Carol I have ever seen. I loved it.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Doctor asks the younger Kazran, is this what you want to become? The kid's confused. He thinks it's his dad. Looks like his dad. And the older Kazran raises his hand in anger like his dad. Why are you about to hit yourself?
I thought that really ruined it a little bit.
Why are you hitting yourself?
Stop hitting yourself.
There's only one way to deal with this, and that's give myself a good slapping.
What?
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense, that bit.
Who among us hasn't wanted to go back in time and just smack themselves,
Yeah, but only when I've done something wrong, not when I've seen myself doing something wrong.
That's true.
If it was a younger me, if a younger me came in now and was like, why are you shouting at that microphone? I'd be like, oh, you're right. I wouldn't want to hit me.
He doesn't hit him, though. We see flashes of memories of his own father's abuse, and then the moment where he didn't hit the other kid from the beginning. And then these flashes of memories turn to Abigail, and his raised hand now covers his face as he breaks down in tears.
Well, right, and I think that's what makes it so powerful, is that he not only realizes that he needs to change, he breaks down, he starts crying, and he hugs his younger, he embraces the kid who never got any hugs as a child because his dad was horrible,
I just realized that Moffat has somehow unbelievably effectively merged Scrooge and Tiny Tim into one character. Just split across time.
Oh, wow, that's true. Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's okay. Don't be frightened.
And the doctor lets him have that moment, but then reminds Kazran, we don't have much time. I mean, you kind of do, but don't think about that. Then the plot doesn't work.
I mean, I guess Abigail also, I guess you could also say that she fits the Tiny Tim role, but I think it's more a young Kazran.
Yeah, I think that's what he was trying to do. But as far as the ship that can't time travel is concerned, they have 5 minutes left. So the doctor calls in and lets the crew know he's just saved Christmas. Prepare to lock onto his signal. But now that the older Kazran is willing to save the ship, he finds his isomorphic controls aren't responding to him anymore.
That rules.
Yes. The doctor freaks out a bit before he apparently works out in his head, and he just mutters, stupid doctor, because apparently he's changed Kazran so much that the machine doesn't recognize him anymore. Here I thought, isomorphic meant his touch was mapped to the machine, like his fingerprints, but apparently not. Apparently it's mapped to his brain or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think probably because I thought about this. Kazran seeing his older self probably changed him so much that the thing with his dad giving him the device never happened.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Possibly.
So Kazran takes out the old half of his sonic screwdriver and asks if they can use that. And the doctor balks at first, but then remembers the other half of it is still in that shark. Sure, if it's still alive.
I was going to say that is one old shark.
And here's where I paused and looked up, how long do sharks live? On average, the answer is 20 to 30 years, and it's been a lot longer than that. However,
these are alien sharks.
Yeah, did you consider this is a different planet of shark?
It's a different planet of sharks, and there's an outlier on our planet called the Greenland shark, native to the Arctic and Northern Atlantic Oceans, including the waters around the British Isles, which can live at least 250 years, possibly as long as 500.
Holy cow.
Do you know what? When I first saw this episode, when the shark comes in at the start, I thought, I recognise that breed of shark. Yeah, that's that Arctic one. I'm from the British Isles, don't forget. Yeah, so Greenland, that's the one. Yeah, that's what I called it, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
That's what you called it, yeah.
And also, we're on another planet where sharks live in the sky, so none of that science matters here. Good news, everyone. The shark's still alive. So the doctor's plan now is to use the machine to boost his half of the screwdriver signal to the other half and send something else. And neither Kazran has figured out what, but we have. When the doctor figures out what this would mean, he suddenly turns sadly to the older Kazran and says, I'm sorry. Now, wait a minute. Look, if y'all haven't figured it out yet, he's planning on taking out Abigail for the last time and getting her to sing through the signal. But can't they just sing themselves?
Not like Catherine Jenkins, they can't.
Not like Catherine Jenkins. You don't hire Catherine Jenkins for her first big acting gig to have her not sing.
Right. But also, we know that the shipmates, the people on the ship singing didn't work.
It wasn't powerful enough. You're right.
Right. So we need Catherine Jenkins.
Yes.
Impeccable soprano.
Only her voice resonates perfectly with the ice crystals. By the doctor's reasoning, it calmed the shark, so it'll calm the sky as well if they boost the signal. So it can only be her. By the way, Catherine Jenkins has a Christmas album, but the standard version didn't have In the Bleak Midwinter on it. They added it to a deluxe version.
After this.
Why wouldn't it be on there to begin with? It's not even on the soundtrack from this special. That's rude.
Rights issues, maybe?
Well, but that's like an old hymn.
That's not
ancient.
Yeah, but not so much to the actual song, but to like her version, the master.
Yeah,
depends on like her label, like who she's signed to, and yeah.
This is Christmas, yeah, and it's a couple of years after this episode.
Yeah. The older Kazran hesitates and asks the doctor,
Could you do this? Think about it, Doctor. One last day with your beloved. Which day would you choose?
But before he can answer, we hear the door open, and Abigail herself answers,
Christmas Day.
I tell you what, I might choose Christmas Day, but not when I'm an 80-year-old man. I'd probably choose it when I was still in the prime of my life.
Yeah. Also, who opened the door?
Christmas!
I mean, I assume the doctor did.
I don't know. It wasn't the kid, because the kid's still over there standing next to the doctor. I don't think it was either of them.
When he asked the doctor that question, I thought back to every episode where the doctor has either had to sacrifice somebody or watch someone die. And I'm like,
yeah,
come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Adric, for one.
I remember Adric. Yeah, that was major, that one.
R.I.P. Adric.
The light was already on inside. They activated the container to prepare to open it, and I guess if you do that, you can open it from the inside, maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Going with that.
Yeah, I can't think about that one too much because this is just going to fall apart.
No, this seems like Abigail is choosing to let herself out one last time, smiles and kindly says, look at you, you're so old now.
I think you waited a bit too long, didn't you? Hoarding my days like an old miser.
That's what Jack said.
Yeah. And Kazran smiles and apologizes and reminds her, if you leave the ice now. And Abigail gently cuts him off and said, we had so many Christmas Eves, I think it's time for Christmas Day.
I tell you what, she looks pretty healthy for someone who's going to die today.
Yeah, really.
She does.
That's the other thing, too. It's like you never see her like coughing or looking sick at all. And I'm just like...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the just like fairy tale nature of this thing, you know?
Yeah, sure.
But even Tiny Tim was visibly sick.
Yeah. We cut back to the ship, which is now run out of time, and suddenly they pick up a signal. The signal of Abigail singing. She's outside in the street and she sings into the screwdriver like a microphone while the Doctor hooks it up to Kazran's tower and the ship starts to stabilize. This song is on this special soundtrack. It's called Abigail's Song, or Silence Is All You Know. I liked it a lot. It's hauntingly beautiful.
I like it too. And this was written by Murray Gold, who wrote the score for every episode of the Russell T Davies era, the Stephen Moffat era, and he's back again now when Russell T Davies came back.
Wait, did Chibnall replace him?
Yeah, Chibnall had a different composer whose name I can't remember. But yeah, I can't remember the fellow's name. But yeah, he didn't do those seasons, but he's back now. And he has written a few other songs for Doctor Who over the years, like in episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And this was much better than his most recent attempt.
Oh boy, can't wait.
There was a song in the most recent season that is. Whew.
Are you talking about the Goblin song?
No, although that one too. I'm talking about. There's always.
I would agree that the Goblin song is not good.
The Goblin song's also not. So actually, yes, he's written two very recently that are not very good.
Can't wait.
I'm talking about at the end of The Devil's Chord. There's always a twist at the end.
Oh, I didn't hate that. It was goofy. I didn't think it was like that bad. The Goblin song, yeah.
So both of those are goofy, and this isn't. And
No.
I agree. It's great. It's true.
Yeah. But as the Doctor finishes wiring up everything, he explains once the two halves of the screwdriver fill the sky with the sound of Abigail's song, the clouds will unlock. And the younger Kazran asks, what does that mean? It's about to be midnight on Christmas morning. What could it possibly mean for a bunch of storm clouds to unlock? It's snowing!
Yeah.
A bunch of other people come outside to check out the snow, while the Doctor unlocks the TARDIS, which activates the two halves of the screwdriver, and here comes the shark! Doctor looks at old Kazran and Abigail once more as she continues singing as he prepares to send the younger Kazran back to his own time. We cut to a little later, I guess. There's a lot more snow on the ground, enough for the Doctor to build a snowman.
That snowman, that's poor.
It's not great.
Doesn't look like a snowman.
No, it's one of those. It's just like your standard three balls smaller than each other on top of each other.
What's the chap at Muppet Family Christmas?
Yeah, it kind of looks like that. Yeah,
the snowman. Yeah,
yeah. He doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
He looks more like that than he does like a real snowman. Anyway,
Yeah.
But would you like this guy more if he was telling jokes with Fozzie?
Man, I would love it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And Amy and Rory catch up to him, still in their costumes and shivering. So those three prepare to leave, and before they get into the TARDIS, Amy asks,
It'll be their last day together, won't it?
Everything's got to end sometime. Otherwise, nothing would ever get started.
and that poignant moment is interrupted by Rory, who tells the Doctor someone's on the phone named Marilyn. Doctor simply says, tell her I'll phone her back, and that was never a real chapel. Anyway, Amy asks where Kazran and Abigail went, and the Doctor simply says, Christmas, looks up at the sky and adds, halfway out of the dark, like we opened this with. And we pan up to find the two flying across the sky in their one shark open sleigh. And that's it.
I love that last shot.
I really love that it ends on the two of them together and happy.
I do. I loved it. I love this whole thing.
I love that it ends with them with the shark. That last shot was perfect.
There's a clever bit, actually. I don't know if you caught it, but when he goes in the TARDIS to take... I think it's when he goes to take young Kazran back. When the TARDIS disappears, right behind where the TARDIS was, you see the sleigh there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did notice that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like full, sort of... And then I guess they jump in it straight after, so...
Love it. Final thoughts, pals.
Like I said before, they've never topped this special, to my knowledge. In my opinion, as far as the holiday specials, it's just this is the best Doctor Who holiday special I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree, and I honestly think it would be a good one to introduce someone to the show. Like, I think you could like it demonstrates what's fun about Doctor Who and like the kinds of things it does well. It's a great example.
You know, it's really funny. It's really funny you say that, Anthony, because when it first came out, a few days after it came out, I went to see one of my mates, and he was talking to me about it. And he wasn't a Doctor Who fan; he'd never seen any Doctor Who before, but this was the first thing he watched. And he was just saying, he actually said it was the best TV he'd ever seen in his life.
Oh, man, awesome!
And the funny thing is, I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a miss." And so I haven't watched it until 2 weeks ago for this. But yeah, seriously, that's how much it touched my mate. Someone who wasn't a Doctor Who fan. Just absolutely loved it. And I really, really loved it as well. And just like I say, the only downside was that I knew what happened at the end already. But other than that, it's And Catherine Jenkins is glorious. Glorious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I also love that this is something, like you said, Anthony, you could introduce someone with it, especially because there's no real like continuity baggage or anything.
Right, yeah.
All you need to know is he's the Doctor and he has a time machine.
Yep. That's all you need.
I feel like also as a Christmas Carol adaptation, I still, to me, the Muppet Christmas Carol is still the gold standard.
Yes.
This is, it doesn't equal it, but I would rank it up there, like in that like higher strata.
Yeah, I agree. I think it rules.
I thought this was so well done. It was obviously a departure from the source material, but a lot of what they did and what they changed still made sense in this world and this story, and all the time travel bits were very cleverly pieced together, as they should be. Remember, the original Christmas Carol itself is a time travel story.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is perfect for that. It's a perfect marriage.
It's not too much of a departure as far as that is concerned. Yeah. But thank you all for joining me on this One Shark Open sleigh ride. This was such a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, obviously, and thanks for doing this. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad that I got to kind of see it through your eyes, watch it again for the first time in a way. Mm-hmm. Anyone who is still listening by this point and had not seen it yet, don't let the spoilers deter you. It's still a wonderful episode of television.
Well, if people want to summon you via half of something you accidentally ate, where can they find you on the internet, Andre?
I'm kind of in the middle of a rebranding, sort of. My Instagram is now locked, but you can find me on Blue Sky still at andrebennettgo.bsky.social. And I'm kind of figuring out my online presence moving forward, but that is there for now. I am on Threads. That is linked to my Instagram. If you know where I am on Instagram, then you can find me on Threads, and that one is unlocked. But Blue Sky is what I'm publicizing for right now.
Anthony.
So you can find me on Blue Sky at Durwood Clapper, where I actually a few weeks ago.
Can I ask? Sorry to interrupt. What's that then?
Oh man. Okay, so Durwood Clapper.
I'm glad you asked because I don't know.
Man.
do.
There's no reason why anyone should know. Durwood Clapper is a character in a defunct Muppet app called My Muppets Show, a mobile game, one of these tap and collect points kind of games that stopped existing about 10 years ago. And in addition to your Kermits, your Fozzies, your Piggies, etc., you could also get made-up characters that didn't exist outside of this game. And one of them was a fellow wearing a trucker hat and an A-shirt whose name was Durwood Clapper. And all he did was go, ba-dum-ba-dum-dum, ba-dum-ba-dum-dum. And I'm obsessed with him, kind of for
it's no understandable. Reason. He sounds very charismatic.
Yes, he is. And so that's my Blue Sky handle, just because I thought it would be funny to me only. So yeah, Durwood Clapper. But also you can find me on Moving Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast, which
a fantastic Muppet movie podcast, boys and girls. Make sure I listen to it. You should too. It's brilliant.
Thank you so much. I guess by the time this has come out, we will be very close to the end of Muppet Treasure Island. We've been watching Muppet movies 2 minutes at a time for almost 7 years now. And but also at Tough Pigs, we are doing a podcast called 70 Years, 70 Muppets, where the Disney Corporation is doing a Muppet of the Week for the Muppets 70th anniversary. So we're doing a podcast every week about that character. And about 2 weeks ago, Mike Westfall himself joined me to talk about the Muppet of that week, The Ghost of Christmas Present. So if you enjoyed hearing us talk about A Christmas Carol for this, long episode, you got about 20 more minutes of me and Mike talking about The Ghost of Christmas Present as played by Jerry Nelson and Don Austin in Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
What's that podcast called, Anthony?
70 Years, 70 Muppets.
Got it.
And we have done, I don't know, it started in September?
Something like that.
As of this recording, I think there's been 12 weeks, 13 maybe. So everybody at Tough Pigs is sharing hosting duties. So.
And Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at home most of the time. I've got a podcast called the Total Christmas Podcast.
And I'm so excited to listen to it.
You should be.
You say that. Wait till you won't be saying it after you've listened to it.
Yes, you will.
I'll tell you that.
Yes, you
will.
will.
I've got 3 listeners. You can make it 4.
All right, I'll do it.
Mike, I have a quiz every episode, and Mike's going to... I say Mike's going to be on, but
I think I have been on at this point, yeah.
Well, when this episode drops, it will have been on like 3 weeks ago. I'm going to be putting it out. And it should be the next episode. I have a quiz every week, but it's just full of Christmas stuff. If you've got nothing better to do, boys and girls, have a listen. If you've got something better to do that.
I'll give it a listen.
You can do both.
Well, I sure don't have anything better to do, so I'll check it out.
I tell you what, boys, if you 3 all listen, that'll double my listenership. I'll be very proud of that. That'll be a big week for me.
Oh, thank you all again. Please go visit all of those wonderful things. You can find those links in the show notes of this episode, and you can find me in everywhere I wish to be found at adventcalendar.house. Next episode arrives on Christmas Eve, so buckle up for that, or alternatively, don't. Nah, you probably should. I don't mean to sound contrary. Until then, for Andre, Jack, and Anthony, from my own personal air-conditioned sleeping chamber and or casket, this is Mike Westfall reminding you to mind the icy patch. Talk to y'all Christmas Eve. Good night.
Well, have I got to do it? Someone else do it. Anthony, you do it. You've got a number of podcasts.
What are we saying about Sherlock? A show that Matt Smith wasn't on. Just that it exists. Stephen Moffat ran it at the same time?
That was out of the 2 of them, wasn't it?
No, that was Benedict Cumberbatch. He wasn't.
But Anthony, go out of your element, Anthony. I'm sick of this. Mike, cut him off.
Jack,
cut him off,
Jack,
Mike.
Jack. Are we
Cut off
just
his microphone.
Are we just saying
You still talking?
Oh, he's muted.
Is he? He is muted. Did he do that himself? Right.
Yes.
Okay. No, let me finish this. Hang on, hold on. Anthony's unmuted. Anthony, you mute yourself again.
All right.
Jack, how long are we doing this bit? Let's see. I'm looking at the opening scene.
Actually, while you guys are doing this, can I call time real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Right. I'll be right back.
You're going to keep all this in the episode, I hope, Mike.
Just the silence, yeah. Actually, I'm going to go get some more water as long as we're here. We're going to say something.
I was just going to check that we're cool. I worried I might have upset you earlier.
Oh, no. No. Don't worry about it. It was fine.
That's just generally my shouting at people. So I'm really sorry because I didn't want to upset them.
No worries. I did just want to move on. That was all, but I did think it was funny. No,
I get that all the time.
Yeah, and muting my audio, like that was me playing into the joke and all that. Please know that was not.
I did think that was you getting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I'm gonna get some water as well. I'm glad we're cool. Okay.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Next time on the Advent Calendar House.
It's a spectacular movie premiere. Drew Barrymore's the little girl who must save Toyland from the clutches of evil.
I want everyone destroyed. Who are you?
She's Toyland's only hope, but she'll need the help of the Karate Kid's Pat Morita in a holiday musical, The All-New Babes in Toyland.